Roll call, please.
President Byrne? Trustee Hebda?
Here.
Trustee Cook?
Here.
Trustee Markwart?
Here.
Trustee Schultz?
Here.
Trustee Schwartz?
Here.
Trustee Williams?
Okay, we have a quorum. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any citizens that wish to address the board tonight? Okay. First official report from myself, proclamation recognizing the accomplishments of the Vernon Hills High School 2012 girls varsity basketball team. Coach, where's the team at? I'm only kidding. I know, it's summer. I know. Kind of took a while to get here, but you guys want to step forward? I know, I recognize two of the players. Okay. I have a proclamation, I guess, for everybody on the team. And this, you know, you had a great season. You know, it was wonderful to follow the team throughout the year. It's always great to read about Vernon Hills and the high school, and it's something that I think everybody up here is very proud of, whether it's academic accomplishments or sports accomplishments or any other endeavors that the students get involved in. So it's created an identity that's wonderful for the whole town. So I'm just going to read the who's here right now? Miss Fernbach?
And Haley Lieberman. Yeah. Haley Lieberman. Casey.
Okay, Haley Lieber. Okay, fine. Well, in that case, proclamation recognizing the accomplishments of Vernon Hills High School 2012 girls varsity basketball team. Coach, you want to state your name, please, for the record?
Paul Bretner.
You know, grab the mic.
This one?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Paul Bretner.
Go ahead. Try again.
Paul Bretner.
All right, give Haley.
Haley Lieberman. Casey Fernbach.
Okay. It's almost like the volume, isn't it? I'm only kidding. All right. Whereas the Vernon Hills High School 2012 girls varsity basketball team put together a magical run of firsts, the Cougars won the first regional, sectional, super sectional, and state semifinal titles in school history. They played in the first ever state title game at the Redburn Arena at Bloomington Normal, which is Illinois State University, on Saturday, March 3rd against the Montini Broncos. The Vernon Hills High School 2012 girls varsity basketball team finished their season with a record of 27-6. The team members are Sydney Smith, Maddie Roberts, Julie Peck, Alina Lahaki, Bree Bauman, Abby Springer, is it Mary?
Mary.
Yeah, Mary Bennett Swanson, Megan Rhyme, Alicia Burrows, Haley Lieberman. Haley's here. Mia Polsky. Poliski. Lauren Webb. We have I said Sydney Smith, right?
Yeah.
Catherine
Kazwara.
Kazwara. Casey Fernbach.
Yeah.
Casey's here. And Kristen Guglielmi.
Guglielmi.
Okay. Head coach Paul Bretner. Assistant coach Rachel Blanton. Tyler Alper. Brian Shear. Nico Escanilla. Escanilla. Okay. Well, I, Roger L. Byrne, President of Village Board and Board of Trustees of Village Vernon Hills, hereby proclaim the Vernon Hills High School 2012 girls varsity basketball team be congratulated for their second place finish at the Illinois High School State championships. Okay, well, that's a great honor, girls, so. And you two are back next year, or both of you? Well, that's great. Well, you both played this year, right? Yeah? You want to say, give him the mic. You want to say anything?
It was a good experience. Like, yeah.
That's it? You girls don't talk on the phone or text or Twitter or anything?
If they could text you a mess right now, it'd be done in 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, pretend nobody's listening and text me what you would like to say. I won't look at you. Is that better? All right, I'm only kidding. Casey, do you want to say something?
I hope we can go back next year.
Okay. Now, you're both juniors, sophomores?
Going into sophomore.
Or you're going to be sophomores?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's nice. You guys could go crazy in next year. All right, well, I have, proclamations for everybody. So if the parents want to take a picture of the girls, or not necessarily? Okay, fine. All right, well, Coach, I'm going to give you to these to distribute to the, yeah, okay. Yeah, great. And you can, girls, congratulations.
Yeah.
Mind if I say one?
Yeah, no, not at all.
All season long, we had a lot of parents, former players, current students supporting us. But when we got towards the end of the season and things were going well, we felt overwhelming support from not just our school, but the village. I mean, everybody was saying congratulations. Mrs. Hebda's preschool class was making signs for us to go downtown. I mean, it was great. We felt it from everywhere. So it wasn't just the high school or just the team. It was a complete village effort, so we really appreciate it.
I know, it was wonderful,
Nice.
so.
So you're going to
Congra-
Valparaiso now to,
Purdue campus.
oh, go Boilers, yes, thank you, have fun.
All right, okay, thank you, and congratulations, girls. Okay. We have, let's see, village board meeting dates are for July 10th and the 24th. Is that correct?
That is
Is
correct.
everybody good with that?
Yes.
And
Okay.
they're changed because of the 4th
The fourth.
of
Right.
July, and so
And on the
you
10th,
shifted both dates.
yeah, and hopefully on the 10th, we'll be doing something similar because an 8th grader from Hawthorne Middle South won the state high jump.
Right.
So we're going to have Noah come in then, so we're going to just keep rolling.
Were
of
you ever getting Jeremy
accomplishments.
Brazil in here, or? He won the state championship as a
Right,
heavyweight
well,
wrestler.
Whenever we get Lynn dutifully follows up,
Okay.
but, it's a well, as you saw tonight, it's a challenge because people are busy,
All right.
people.
Okay.
So, but we'll try to get everybody here.
All right, we'd like to welcome Representative Carol Senti, who's the State of Illinois House Rep for the 59th District. And she's here to give a report on, I don't know,
What's going,
where the money's going.
yeah.
Or where specifically, this came up due to the fact that we were talking about video poker, how and what other funding mechanism is in place to promote the capital program that is sorely needed, and it's been 10 years, I think, since we did one, and if they already floated bonds, but I'll let you speak to that topic.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone tonight. Good evening. I guess I had a similar thought. I wanted to come see you, as I try to do once a year, and at the same time you guys had requested that I speak to that issue. I've been in contact with Mike Allison and asked maybe what questions you might ask beyond that. So hopefully any of your questions I can answer. I wanted to just briefly start by telling you about some of the accomplishments that we did get done in the House this year. So it is the second year that we worked with a balanced budget. There was some legislation I did in my freshman year that changed how we budget in the state, And so at least I'm proud to say that we've moved forward. We're working in a more bipartisan manner. The budget is done in appropriations committees, as it should be, as opposed to the leader and the staff doing it and handing us a completed project or a completed booklet. So we are doing that. We did allocate over $1 billion to unpaid bills this year, which also makes me very happy. There's a long, deep list, but hopefully we can just keep whittling away at that over time. We also made some Medicaid cuts and did some Medicaid reform this year. A major element of that was to be able to reduce the Medicaid fraud. There are people that aren't alive anymore, don't live in the state, and don't meet the requirements, and so that'll be a substantial savings. We really had to rescue the Medicaid system because it was ready to collapse. And so that budget element should help us move on our way. We also did reduce legislators' pay again. That's the 4th consecutive year we did that. We just felt like with everyone else struggling that should be a contribution of ours as well. And I worked very closely with Mike. I had a personal bill on a tax sharing rebate agreements, and I know that for Vernon Hills, that is a major source of revenue because we're fortunate not to have a property tax, but we wanted to do that in a way that was responsible, and it allowed for some transparency, but it also did not hinder the businesses from wanting to come to a town. So we took out the proprietary information and put that, those agreements will be.
What do you reference, what is that called?
Actually, it was House Bill 3859. It was a bill I ran, and it passed both the House and the Senate, and it dealt with the transparency of tax rebate sharing, or sales tax rebate sharing agreements, which is,
Yeah, okay.
we have many in this town. And so being able to have the public access that, the reports will go to the Department of Revenue. That can be FOIA'd, and, but the proprietary information is redacted. I also personally worked on a reciprocal reporting bill that had a lot to do with school safety, and actually did several bills with the with local law enforcement. So, in terms of some of the things that I understood that you were asking.
What did well, going back to my original inquiry,
Yes.
you want to address that, or?
Yes, that was.
You know, you got the floor, there's nobody else here, so you can answer, you know, that question. It's principally, Carol, why you were asked here, and
Okay.
Senator Link was asked here.
I know.
It was all about the
I-
gambling, and the gambling, which I appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you talking about certain accomplishments, but with that said, that's really why you were asked here tonight.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'll get into
I mean,
that.
we all read in the newspapers and everything's hunky-dory, so,
Is that what you read?
yeah. Yeah,
okay,
it's
so-
a special state, you know?
I haven't read that. So in July 2009 was the capital plan. It actually, that bill passed before I got there, but it was a piece that talked about the generation of 5 different sources of revenue, as well as the capital projects that were going to be funded specifically for that. I believe one of your questions was what are the current projections for when video gambling will go online?
Well, more accurately, what are the 5 funding sources?
Sure. So in that bill was the motor vehicle license. There were 2 types of increased. Driver's license renewals were increased, as well as plate renewals. So that was one fee increase. The lottery fund was another source of revenue in that bill, and there's been some delay in those funds coming online because.
Well, the lottery fund was what? We sold that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That was leased to a private
All right,
company,
so
and they're getting that online.
Is there, well, how much revenue is that going to generate towards the capital program?
I have that by year. Did you want me to complete the
Well, I
other
just like
5
to know, I
items?
mean, you know, I guess probably everybody sitting up here's overall concerns is just going to go into a black hole
Right.
and just be, you know, used for anything and everything. And are any of these proprietary funds, you know, where, okay, they're really, really going to go in this pot here
Right.
and stay there to pay down the bonds, or is it just, a bunch of smoke and mirrors as usual.
Right, well, I hope it isn't. That is exactly how it is allocated, that it is a private fund that is specifically for capital projects, and it is allocated in that way. It's not supposed to be able to be swept or any way touched for any other source.
Well, but with that said, the motor fuel tax fund has been robbed for years. So where did that go?
Well, this was
I know, you know what I mean? Motor
Yeah,
fuel
no,
tax.
I understand.
I mean, your neighborhood is part of the village where you live.
Correct.
My neighborhood is part of the village. That's how you repair the streets every year. I mean, systematically, through our street improvement program, we just, go through the whole damn town. So what leads me to believe that I can trust anybody for this money to go there? Because this came, our discussion was on video poker. Okay, fine. We don't have to do it. We don't need the revenue. I mean, we'd like the revenue, but how critical is that to, actually go forward with the capital program to actually improve the infrastructure of the state? Or is it just going to go, it's not there again, just like with the teacher's pension fund?
Right.
Okay,
Well-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So the motor fuel fund is separate from the motor vehicle licenses. Again, can I tell you that something is going to change and what exactly the governor is going to do? No, I can't speak for
Well,
him.
what's Mike Madigan going to do?
Pardon?
Mike Madigan.
I
what's-
can't speak for him either.
I mean, he's the puppet master.
Yeah, well,
Okay, well,
moving along, all I
okay.
can speak to is what I can do there and what I'm working to continue. So in terms of those 5 funding sources, and quickly, the third is increase to the liquor tax, and this was done, you'll have to forgive me, it's before I got there, but I have this research
don't care,
for
yeah.
you. The video terminal tax, which is the video gaming, and then some miscellaneous taxes that basically had something to do with unhealthy sugar, drink products, et cetera. So we have all those initial projections from the time. They're supposed to come online for collection for 2010 through 2015. So for example, the projection total tax revenues from those 5 items for 2012 was approximately $527 million. From those revenues, they have there's also a Wirtz protest fund. There was, the capital bill was challenged for the single source issue, so there were additional items funded there. So the total would be about $670 million. And then of that amount in 12, expenditures were actually less than that amount, so they're projecting that there is some additional ending balance beyond the capital projects that they funded. So there might be some suggestion that there's actually room to increase that list.
Have any of the bonds been issued yet? Have any bonds been actually, dedicated to road improvements or infrastructure?
Yes, they have.
And because the number that was initially bandied about was like 26 billion. What have they actually floated in bonds to this date?
So do you want on anything specific in Vernon Hills?
No,
roads,
no,
or,
just,
okay,
you can
so,
talk in generalities.
so at
Unless
the
you got numbers on
time-
Route 45 being
I
done in
do,
next year.
I do have some of those
In-
numbers
Pretty
too.
soon?
Pardon?
Is it gonna happen? Is that what you're saying?
I will tell you specifically what's on that list.
Yeah. No, okay.
So Route 45, there's $1 million for Phase 2 of Route 45.
For the engineering.
For Phase 2, the engineering,
Yeah.
for the portion between Route 60 and Route 22 for FY13. And then there's $5.75 million for construction and an additional $3.5 million for land acquisition, planned for fiscal year 14 through 18
So the 5 million is for what? Sewer work?
for construction.
What do you think, Dave? What would that be for?
I think they're looking at 5.7 million. That's probably 10%, I think, of the overall construction cost for the project.
So what would you do with that? I mean, what would the state be doing with that?
Well, that would be the match for federal funding.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So I have some calculations for the highway improvement program, what's happening on Route US 45, 21, 22, and 6083. I'm not sure if you want that. We can also later follow up with Manager Allison and give him some of this
So did you
information.
share this with Mike and Dave? The
Would I
information?
or
No,
have I?
No, have you?
I have not yet. This was just, we just
Okay.
worked on compiling this today. Actually, there were about 10 questions that Mike thought you might all ask, so.
Okay.
It's pulling a lot of research from
What
the
about
governor's
question,
office
what
and
about
our
question
office.
11?
Question
I like
11,
it.
I
I
might
like
even
it.
have a question 11.
Go ahead.
I gave her that one too.
Yeah,
The status of natural gas aggregation was question 11.
there you go.
Yeah.
You want to know that one?
Yeah, sure.
Yes? Well, there was a House bill that passed the Senate. It was changed in the House, so it was temporarily delayed. The Attorney General and the Citizen Utility Board had some opposition. So you should expect to see it. Negotiations have continued, and in the next session, similar to the electric aggregation, we should see that move forward. It's just not quite soup yet.
All right, jumping back to video gaming.
Okay?
Are any of these, distributors and operators accurate when they tell us that would be $2,200 in some way, shape, or form per machine to a municipality, whether it's a village or a city? I mean, what kind of revenue do you really think this will generate, and how important is it to the overall capital program?
Well, as you know,
Not to mention real casinos.
Right. Well, the legislator in this area that's probably the true gaming expert wasn't able to be here tonight. He had an emergency, and so he apologizes for that. So, but in terms of, you asked a couple of questions. The status of local capital projects that were to be funded from those revenue sources, they have released some of the road improvement projects in Vernon Hills and throughout the area. And there's also, as you know, member initiatives that had taken place back in '09 with Senator Link and Representative Rigg. And so I have a list of what happened with the status of that July legislation and what's been vouchered or what's moved forward.
Does that include the $505,000 that we never got for Fairway? Is that under?
Unfortunately, it isn't. Yeah, I keep asking every time
Yeah.
something comes up with the governor's office. It is
Uh,
not yet under that, on that category list, but it's still on my list to
Yeah,
keep
okay,
asking
yeah.
for.
Okay, well,
I didn't make that promise, but
Okay.
yeah, no, I appreciate that, that was something that you guys wanted to
This is
receive.
Fairway Drive, turns into Buffalo
Right.
Grove, right, road
Right.
now, and we didn't get
That's
paid for
not-
money we
Well,
expended, so
what's
it's a
kinda
half
nice-
$1,000,000, and
We can use it for resurfacing if we
apparently.
by the time
All
we
right.
get it.
Okay, I got it. Trustee Cook has a question.
One of the things I wanted to ask with regard to the legislation on the video gaming was, what's been the reaction downstate to what's a seeming disconnect with the municipalities? I mean, that it was like 80% approval in the legislature, which, is not a number you achieve all that often. And at the same time, then, so many of the communities up here have turned around and said no to it.
Right.
Has there been a reaction to that down there?
Not really that has reached me in terms of that issue. Everyone's been pretty much focusing on the larger gaming bill that they've tried to pass in the last couple of years. In terms of, maybe because there's been a delay in the gaming board actually working through some of the fine points of moving forward with the video gaming legislation, that it just hasn't been as much on people's radar, would be my only guess.
Well,
It
that was gonna
has
be my other
actually-
thing.
Yeah, what was,
When we talked at the last meeting and that, it seemed like much of what the state was promulgating as rules and that were done. And now I read in the article about Fox Lake passing it, that one of the things they're waiting for is that the state says the rules won't be done till August. And that was in today's newspaper. And so there seems to be this kind of constantly shifting focus on it, and that's made it hard to sit up here and decide exactly what to do.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Trustee Schwartz Sanders.
I wanted to find out about Madigan's proposal about shifting the pensions to the local municipalities, and which is kind of ironic since he had something to do with why there isn't the money that should be in the pensions, but obviously that's not something we want to see happen. And what is the, what other options are there, or where are we at with that?
So there was, nothing happened in the legislature this year in terms to take any money from the local government distributive fund. But in terms of the pension discussion, as you know, that did not get resolved. We are still on notice that we would be called back sometime this summer to discuss that issue and vote upon it, which I think would be a healthy thing to move forward with some type of responsible pension reform. In terms of the cost-sharing piece, that is still on the table. I mean, when the leaders are ready with a bill, they'll call us back down, but it seems to me that the majority of the leaders are in support of having some type of cost-sharing. The governor's office is doing some analysis of that to make sure that how much could be shared and how quickly, and what would that do to the different local governmental entities, which of course is important. But the pension shift, the idea, the concept with that, I know it makes sense to everyone in terms of what they're saying. The common sense reason would be if, for example, a school district is in negotiations and they aren't responsible for the employer's share of the pension payment, they perhaps would make a different decision than they would if there was some portion of that. And I think conceptually, I personally feel comfortable with that. It's how big is it and how quickly? Because obviously no one wants to push everything onto local government. I won't say everyone, but that would be detrimental if we did that. I'm not in favor of that, and so we have to do that reasonably. What everyone thinks is reasonable is always up for discussion. So there is not a bill ready. And then they will also review possibly reducing the cost of living increase, which is actually the greatest potential area for some savings. When I talk to teachers, they're open to a little bit of that shift. You know, things like having a teacher work till 67, not so much. And so we're just trying to think through what might be reasonable.
So would districts where the teachers do pay in be exempt from the cost shift?
Well, so they're looking at the 5, well, there's possibility now the judges are removed, but the same bill where the 5 pension systems, which would be the school districts, the state university employees, the state employees, and the General Assembly would all be in that category. Speaker Madigan's proposition is that in the universities and the teachers, there is not per se an employer share.
What, now, you've served what, 2 years now?
It'll be 3 years in September.
Okay. So when you retire, what's your pension?
Well, I guess that depends how long I stay. I know it's proportional. I didn't really look into it because I've planned my savings through my private savings. But I believe at 8 years, I think it's about 40% of your salary.
You do know it takes a teacher 20 years to do that, so.
To get 40% of your salary?
Yeah, because you got to be vested at that, well, about 17 years, 17, 18.
All right. And then how about group health? Do you get that?
I was told, so I don't personally take the state health insurance either. I use my private insurance. However, I think at 8 years that General Assembly get their state insurance 100% paid for, which I don't think is reasonable either.
Until you pass away, right?
I think so. And I
That's a
think
wonderful-
that,
that's a
yeah,
great
I think
benefit,
that needs
you
to
know?
be reformed too.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so now, who's looking at a new kind of tax the limitation tax is where, you know, right now, school districts, municipalities, everybody, you can't, you know.
Oh, the property tax, the
Property
limitation
tax, you
bill?
can't- yeah, the limitation bill. But who's sponsoring that?
Um,
Is that Representative Franks?
There were several
but-
bills. I
but
think
isn't
Representative
Franks one of
Franks
the
has
key-
one, yes.
Okay, so what is the language in his bill?
Basically, as it states, as home values are dropping,
Yeah,
that local government can't increase the property tax except via voter referendum.
would that affect the school districts?
It would,
Yeah.
yes, all
So
local
do
taxing
you
bodies.
support that? Do you support that?
Yeah, I do.
You
Yes,
do?
I do. Mhm.
Wow.
If all of a sudden.
What
the shares
effect
go
would that have on funding the schools right here in this district?
Well, we have to be sure that
Especially if they get.
there's a
shifted
balance.
Pension.
If you're looking at everything that's happening all at once, like we looked at an appropriation bill for schools that cut their early childhood, that cut their state aid, that held their transportation flat. If we did that and then cost shifted the pensions and did the P-TEL bill, no, that's ridiculous. I mean, that would be shifted immediately on the taxpayers, and we can't do that. But on some point, local homeowners are asking for some relief. And as I talk with them at town halls and at their doors, they are very interested in that bill moving forward. Right now, it's dead. I don't know that it's going anywhere.
Okay. Okay, I don't know, does anybody else have any questions for Representative Senti? Trustee Hebda?
No. I just, my frustration with the whole state issues, like the idea of the pension and not upping the rate to 60, upping the age to 67, to say that you get 100% of your health insurance paid for after 8 years. That needs to change.
I agree.
I mean, you talk about Medicaid reform, and I think there were some good things in there. There were, you know, it's just, and this gaming issue, it's like, okay, are we gonna get the money, or is it gonna go and float around someplace else? And I think the frustration is you go down there, and many people go down there with good intentions, but there are only key drivers driving us, and that's the frustration. And it seems
Until
like,
those
you
key
know,
drivers change, nothing's gonna change.
I know, it's like nothing, and Carol, your hands are tied.
In certain aspects,
certain-
they
yeah.
certainly are. And others, I've
frustrating.
seen a small group be able to institute change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, you see businesses wanting to leave to go to, I mean, look at what Wisconsin has done. Why can't we do some things like they've done? I mean, our state is just, it's an embarrassment.
Okay,
I agree.
But
I'm
that-
almost done.
I'm done. I
I
mean,
only got one, is
that's,
this question 12 that I'm asking here, or is this over to 10?
You skipped to 12.
Okay, we're jumping to 13 now. Why, you followed the Caterpillar story, right?
Yes.
And they were going to expand here, and I think they were actually moving production from Japan back to the United States. Does that make sense, or am did you read the same article I did by the chairman of Caterpillar featured in the Tribune? You do read the Tribune, right?
I do read the papers
You read
one
them
at
all,
a
right?
time. Well,
You
no,
should.
I don't.
Well, I
read them
enjoy
all.
the Sun-Times, the
Honestly,
Tribune, and the Herald, because I get, you know, an interesting twist on everything. But with that said, this man, they're going to build the same facility they were going to build in Illinois and Indiana because of workers' compensation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge message
Right.
from one of the biggest employers and probably tax generators. So how, you know what I mean? To go to Indiana, because that's a fairer system. Here, you know, it's a free-for-all. It's out of control. I mean, there's no AMA guidelines, you know? I mean, this has been discussed since 1975, and they keep putting Band-Aids on it. But when a you know, an owner of, you know, a principal of Caterpillar says, I'm not going to build in my own state, that's a huge embarrassment. So how is any of that being addressed or spoke to?
I agree with you. I have a slightly different perspective, I believe, than the governor does, and I think many people were very disappointed with the way tax incentives and attracting or keeping businesses, those decisions were made, and it felt very non-transparent. You know, here we have this tax increase, which I didn't support, but this money's coming in, and what are we doing? We're turning around and maybe giving it, and it felt a little bit arbitrary to different companies that were making different pleas to the state. And so one of the things that felt very, just didn't feel good about that bill is because what I'd like to see is to have a very transparent, if you do this in the state, whether you're small, medium, or large company, and you create these many jobs, or you invest this much in infrastructure, everyone can get the same thing. If we're saying it's good for one company, we're saying it's good for everybody. It's not who finds another plot of land outside of the state and says they're gonna move and kind of chasing after a threat to leave. If we're,
I don't think Caterpillar was looking for a handout. I mean, they were just saying,
understand,
this
but-
is too tough a state, in their opinion, to do business in. And they got people that are paid well, and they're in, you know, the manufacturing process. And they have their own statistics, because I'm sure they're self-insured for workers' comp, where it's pretty bloody sometimes as far as the expenses. So, you know.
well, and there's
The
many
plaintiff,
expenses
you know-
that a company has to deal with, workers' comp being one. I did
Yeah.
support workers' comp reform. You know I own a small
Well, workers'
business.
comp reform is
But
like
that's
a
what
Band-Aid.
you're talking about was
But,
one of
you know, I mean,
Caterpillar's issues,
you know what
as
it
well
is?
as the
It's-
taxes in
the
the state.
sad thing is, it's like a plaintiff's lawyer mentality down in Springfield.
I can only speak for my mentality.
Okay,
Thanks.
well, that's kind of, but I'm sure you've met some of the people
Yes,
that, you
and
know
some of
some of the
them
other
frustrate
representatives.
me
so-
too.
But I just thought Caterpillar, that was pretty telling. My God, here's a
No, we
business
have to
been there
work
for
harder
100
on
years,
keeping
so.
them in the state, absolutely. I think we're all in
All right.
agreement there.
So do we have
Here.
closure on anything?
No.
No, okay.
I hope I've answered your question.
Well, within reason, yeah.
And feel free to, you know, follow up. I can leave this document with my,
Well, Carol, I appreciate you coming and,
Thank
you know,
Very
at
much.
least stating your positions within reason, even though I don't have full understanding of them, but.
of mine. We can have that conversation anytime. I can't speak for others 100%, only myself.
All right,
Thanks.
okay, thanks.
Nice to see everyone tonight.
Bye.
Have a nice evening.
All right, next is, let's see here. Approval and passage of resolution 2012-112, resolution reaffirming support for the extension of Illinois Route 53 in Lake County. We didn't even get to that question.
That was
Uh-oh.
15.
Get her back. Carol, get back in. No. Anyway, is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Motion second, roll call.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
And for the record, I'd vote aye. So, motion carries. Okay, Planning and Zoning Commission vacancy. So we have to advertise for the opening, and, is that about it?
Yeah. Well, just to, we wanted to acknowledge that and encourage residents to
And what we'll do
send in
is-
information.
Well, and we should go back to the list of people that have previously wanted to be on some, you know, committee.
Yeah, and let them know, it's been some
Right.
time, but, excuse me, yes.
And we also have vacancies for the police and fire pension board, right? Reappointments coming up.
A reappointment,
Well, we should advertise that too,
okay.
you know. And that's about it. Okay, village manager French Market.
Okay, I think Dave's been working hard at it. I think we've got it worked out that the French Market is starting at the metro station. And again, it's at the location that's where the tent is for Oktoberfest, so people know. And it'll start Saturday, July 7th, and it'll run consecutive Saturdays through September 29th, and it runs from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So again, it's in talking to Leslie Cahill, who coordinates the French markets, it's in some communities, it's 60% food, 40% non-food. In others, she said it's 40-60 the other way. So it's not a traditional farmer's market exclusively, but it does have a food element to it and that type of thing. And she's recruiting vendors now, and this is their first foray into Lake County. The closest they are is Wilmette right now. So we look forward to it, and it should be a great, we've received a few phone calls from residents already, so.
Where did I see, is it the same operator that they've advertised for other towns?
Yes, they're in Wheaton,
Yeah.
Wilmette, and they operate the Ogilvy, the transportation center. There's the French market on.
That's like
Alda.
the weekend sections of the paper have
Right.
highlighted this facility, so, okay. Anything else?
I have a
That's it
question
for
on
that.
the front. Did we end up taking care of the matter of, I believe if they were, if we let them go, that we would not be able to have anything on that premises for whatever period of time?
Well, we defined the site very narrowly.
Narrow,
Yeah,
small.
that's the
Petite.
exhibit in there.
Okay,
Right.
fine, that's,
Any other comments or questions on this one? Okay. All right, summer celebration, July 19th to the 22nd. This will be an event as usual in Vernon Hills that'll produce some memorable musical acts.
And
And-
today's weather is exactly
Right.
a reminder of,
And there will be nothing but fun and music
that's right.
at
It-
summer celebration.
Yeah. So,
You
and
can-
Thursday, we have Tropic Explosion. I still can't
Yeah.
pronounce that, but that fireworks on Thursday, 19th. My mother's birthday, by the way, just a
Oh,
little
God
aside.
bless her.
Friday, July 20th, Mike and Joe. And then also Freddie Jones Band will be on Friday night. Saturdays, Jamie Lano, who is a local resident who was on
Oh,
The
yeah.
Voice.
Yeah.
That's
What time is
that's
he
the guy.
playing?
He's playing at 6, and before that, we haven't finalized it, but he's going to be there signing autographs. So before his.
Yeah.
So, and then Hartsfield is right after him.
For all
and
our
then-
country fans.
Country, yes. So you know who will be there, Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody who works for the
Our
village.
secretary will be there, definitely.
It's not
So-
Toby Keith, but you'll show.
No, well, yeah, we're working on that for next year. And then Dave Mason, which all of us of a certain age will remember,
Yep.
Feeling All Right. I won't sing it.
Has
and-
never heard of Dave Mason, come to this concert. This guy is great. I saw him at Viper Alley, and, he was trafficked, but not only that, he played with Hendrix and Eric Clapton and all the greats on different albums. And the guy's 65, and he can still pick and sing. He's got good pipes still. So, but he's got a really good band, and he's probably going to bring some blues guys that he brought to Viper Alley. And if you closed your eyes, you'd have thought it was Hendrix playing the guitar up there at Viper Alley. This is several months ago. So I went to see him, and excellent. That's all I'm going to say. So this is free, too. People understand free, especially in this economy. So, and who's Sunday, Mike?
Mr. Slade, a
Oh, yeah.
local band. Some of the members live in town here.
Oh,
And they do a mix of different music, and they're very good. We've had them at Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
So that's the rundown. It's a lot of fun. The carnival's going to be there. Thanks to and I'm sure after the event we'll thank all our sponsors, our many sponsors.
Yeah. So it'll be nice.
Yep.
I haven't done that in
4 nights of fun and music. So, okay. Assistant Manager Kalmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 items from me. First, I think everybody's aware that Westfield has now submitted their plans for technical review with regards to the expansion of the mall and also significant remodeling that's going to go on with regards to the property. They're beginning to firm up the other users that are going in, and we hope to let you know more about that here in the coming days. One of the things that we found with the plans is that there's a fair amount of complexity to the design, both of the building and the like, and also the signage that's involved with that. And what I've suggested to Manager Allison is the possibility of doing a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the board to have Westfield come in and do a detailed review primarily of those two items. And again, it allows for both groups to hear a total presentation, allows both groups to have a conversation between themselves, ask the hard questions and the like, and I think there would be a lot of positive things that could come out of that, not the least of which is that it would help in the review process, that they've already had a chance to initiate this conversation with both boards, and allows them to address some of your questions early on so that that process can go as smoothly and quickly as possible. My suggestion would be, if the board is agreeable to this, is sometime either in the second full week or the third full week in July. We have, because we've moved the meeting back to the 10th, you have the open Tuesday on the 17th we could do, or we could look at another date somewhere in that general area. Plan Commission usually meets on Wednesdays, and I have an understanding of what their available is on Wednesday.
Jan, who would actually come for Westfield?
Well, the Westfield guys that I would recommend be here would be the development guys and the guys who could actually answer the specific questions. Well, Hide Kashima is the point person. Well, whoever's on his design team. So from that standpoint, it would be the individuals who are tasked with designing.
Well, who's the individual that we think took over for Chris Barnett?
I don't know that name.
Okay. Who, is it Corey?
I don't know. That's,
No,
I have a
Corey,
call.
no.
We met, I forget the gentleman's name, we met him that one time.
Corey's the guy I think I met, I mean, did meet in Vegas at the International Council of Shopping Centers. So, and I think he's assigned here.
I'm sorry.
Hide and I are trading phone calls right now to put the lineup together. So if you would like that guy here, I'm absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
because I assume he reports to Hecht and Genovese or Genovese.
Yeah.
You know, one's East Coast, the guy from Jersey, the other guy from LA.
Right.
That are involved in all their development. We should have somebody there besides Hide.
Well, the key element of this presentation will be to talk about the details of the building so that everybody understands.
Right.
I have still not yet received any of the financials.
Right.
So you all are aware. I'm assuming that those will walk in the door anytime. In fact, I usually put their name up on my board in my office, and when I erase it, something happens. So I may just erase Westfield off there, and I'm sure things will fall out of the sky. But so if you'd like, what I can try to do is target the 17th. Would that work?
That works
Sure.
for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Schultz.
Right. What again is the purpose of us meeting together and not going through the normal review process, letting them chew on it like they do with all the other things that come before this?
This might hasten the process.
Well, we can hasten the process by having a special meeting of our own. I just don't want us to be putting undue, pressure is not the right word, but changing a different structure that they normally go through to accomplish their mission, and then, passing it on to us. I can't see a good reason to do this. I mean, we could definitely schedule a special meeting for the day after theirs if we wanted to expedite things, but to be part and parcel of their meeting, I'm not a fan. Because, no one really puts a cork in me, and there's a few others up here that no one puts a cork in them either, so.
That are uncorkable.
Yes. and I'd rather that's what we've given them their marching orders to do.
I think, I mean, I would think it would hasten the process.
Yeah. Well, I think
Don't we
another,
send out notice, we send out notice to everybody you know, I mean, it's gonna be a joint meeting?
It
Would you
will-
send it out to all the property owners?
No, we will not.
Well,
This is-
then-
This
okay.
is strictly a public meeting. It's not the public hearing. And it is, in many respects, the same as what we do at the Committee of the Whole. It's a presentation. It goes over the details of each of the buildings because.
But they would get the benefit of questions from all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And,
All right.
and
I don't have
So
a
we're
problem
not
with that.
looking for them, though, to create their series of 14 conditions that need to be
No,
met.
not at all.
Okay, that's where I had my greater concern.
Yeah,
Then-
no, and we're not short. The intention here is to get everybody up to speed so that when we go to that public hearing before them and they can do their work, they can focus on the issues and maybe Westfield can address some of the questions that you all raised or they raised as a part of that concept plan review or so to speak. I just, you know, quite honestly,
As a committee of the whole type meeting, I'm on board.
It is-
I'm on
that's
board
exactly
now,
what
so
it is.
You can stop selling.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or questions for Assistant Manager Calmer? 4th of July activities?
I can do that one
Or
and I'll come back to
concerts,
Arbor.
or-
Well, I have the Arbor Theater concert series. Actually starts Thursday night. Lisa's done a great job at putting together 4 really interesting groups this year. The June 21st is the group called Spoken For. They're a new group that we haven't had here in town. It's a modern band with a depth and talent to cover any style and any genre, so to speak. So, and then we've heard some of the other folks here in the past. So, July 12th, July 26th, and August 9th are the 4 concert dates for that. You've seen the posters out in the lobby, and there's information on our website. It's at the Arbor Theater. If it rains, we move to the Sullivan Center. Keep an eye on the website if, in fact, you get a sense it's going to rain that night, because we try to post it there. We try to send blast emails, and the police, CSOs, typically wait for people at the entrance to redirect them back to the Sullivan Center. So, so we're hoping to have a nice crowd this year, maybe top 700-800 people this year in terms of attendance. So. And then the final item is the 4th of July parade activities.
But before you leave.
Go ahead.
Trustee Schultz.
Just as an ancillary, I've noticed that Cuneo is going to have their lawn concert series, but I haven't seen dates on those. They're just who is appearing, the Piano Man and a few other groups. Are there dates out there? And
I would not seen them yet. So
okay.
There are dates. I saw dates.
Okay.
I forgot.
Is
One's at the end of this
Cuneo's website.
On
Well, get 'em
Cuneo's
and
or our
we'll post-
website?
it's posted on the website. Lisa just informed me.
is it?
They're posted on the website.
Cuneo is on our
Yeah.
website.
Yep.
Thank you. I haven't checked our website.
And then the final item is with regards to the 4th of July parade. As in the past, the committee has worked really hard with regards to the festivities, and this year in cooperation with the Park District, we look forward to having not only a great parade, but a fun evening. Lineup starts about 8 o'clock or so. The committee's on site starting at about 7:15 or so. We have our golf carts lined up for you all who need golf carts. We have candy for all of you except one, and the like, so we're all set there. Bike contest this year is at 8:30, or it starts at 8. The awards will be at 8:30. The parade will jump off with the national anthem sung by Grace Ferrillo. She's a local resident. She did a great job last year, and she's back with us again this year. The parade this year has 4 marching bands, and we'll expect to see about approximately 90 units as in the past. So 6:30 in the evening then, the music in the park will take place with the Big Fun Band sponsored by the Park District. They are sponsoring not only the band itself, but the stage and everything.
Fireworks too? I'm sorry?
Are they doing the fireworks too?
The village is still doing the fireworks, but thanks for the question. Still
We're gonna
using,
start passing the boot.
that legislation actually passed, so. The fireworks will shoot at 9:30. Again, we're using Melrose Pyrotechnic as we have in the past, and they'll be with us both for our event and Summer Cell and possibly the high school homecoming event. So, and we're going to have a great crowd, I think, again this year. And the only thing that we don't control is the weather. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Trustee Cook.
Just a request, and I know logistically sometimes it's virtually impossible to avoid, but I mean, a couple of years we've had some huge gaps in the parade of, 15, 20, 25 minutes. Yeah, if there's a way we can have people, maybe just patrolling up and down a 1 or 2 block stretch to try and keep
We'll
things
try
a
to
little
push
bit
them along.
tighter.
Yeah, we try to encourage performance groups to stop at certain locations along. And honestly, we put a whip and a chair in everybody's golf cart to try to move them along, and it's a continual problem. I understand.
We got
I
the
understand
lawn
that going-
chair guys?
They are not here this year. They're in Barrington, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, they got to Barrington got to them, I think, literally that day last year, the 4th of July that day. So we'll see what we can do about getting them back in the future and the like. So.
Okay. We don't have any animals?
Horses. Yeah, McCray Farms is going to be here this
No
year.
zoo animals?
No zoo animals, sorry. Tigers were out of town that day.
All right, okay, fine.
I never get to
All
see
right.
the parade.
So-
Anything else, Jen?
Really
That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to just sit and
Okay,
watch it.
Public Works Director Brown / Village Engineer.
Thank you very much. Actually, very appropriate that Representative Sentes was here. We talked about the Route 45 project, and one of our goals is try to move this along. In the board packet, there's quite a few pages. I'll make this brief. Essentially, in your packet, looking at page 50, they're asking for village concurrence on the environmental impacts to the golf course. We still have the process of going through, they have to acquire property from the golf course, a construction easement, so we still need to do that. What this is as part of the phase 1 study, they're going through the environmental impacts and they're asking the village, will this have an adverse impact to the golf course or not? Looking at it, well, we are all familiar with the force main sanitary sewer that just went in on the golf course. Their retaining wall is going to be on the highway side of that, so we understand the impacts. Really looking at it, there's the letter, they're asking for us to concur or not to concur, whether or not it would have adverse impacts to the golf course. I think it's important we include a couple of details. One, they included that they would cover the trees in terms of the IDOT policy and replacement. In looking at that area of disturbance, there are some trees, some bushes, etc., that if they were fully removed, it would expose the highway closer to the golf course. When we look at out the window of the golf course, the clubhouse, when someone is paying for a round, and while they're putting, they will be able to see the highway if those trees aren't included. So I would recommend to the board that we definitely include a comment about the importance of the trees. Also, they will be constructing a retaining wall to hold back the highway. The look of that retaining wall is very important to us too. So I recommend that we include that in the comment section also. In terms of the impacts, we did meet with O.B. Sanders and discuss this a year or so ago, so we knew this request was coming forward. OB also agrees with me that in terms of adverse impacts, we still will be able to have the same golf course. It's just more of the views, the aesthetics that's going to be impacted. My recommendation is that the board approve this concurrence with those comments or any other comments you'd like to add, and that Village Manager Ellison is allowed to, on this page 50 document, have his name, title, and comments added, and we can send this off to IDOT. This will allow them to continue to close out this project. We need the project to get out of phase 1. They're telling us that it will be out of phase 1 in the next 2 months, and we all want this to move forward. So my recommendation is that to include a comment on the trees, the comment on the landscaping. We can work with Bob Kinney to wordsmith it But those are really the critical, important items.
It's too bad we can't move a couple of the big trees out of, next to a couple of the fairways that I hit all the time. And, you know, we could move them over there and block the vision of the road, but they're too big to move.
Okay, any other comments or questions on this? All right. Next is the,
Thank you for your concurrence.
yeah, omnibus vote agenda. Is there a motion to approve items A through O?
So made.
Okay, any comments, questions, or any items need to be pulled? If not, is there a motion to approve? We got a motion and a second, roll call.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries. Unfinished business, approval of Kemper voucher list of bills dated June 19th, 2012, in the amount of $14,785.87. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Sign?
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schwartz?
Abstain.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any new business or communication to come before the board? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the board meeting and go into committee to hold? Do we have to go into closed session?
No, sir.
Okay. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, I'd like to call the committee, the whole meeting to order. First item, excuse me, is the approval of the June 5th, 2012 committee of the whole minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve in a second. Any comments, questions, or corrections? If not, roll call.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda? Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Motion carries. Next is Chick-fil-A.
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 Filet.
Filet.
Filet. Okay. 701 North Milwaukee Avenue, presentation of concept plans for construction of a new restaurant with drive-through. This is what, the old Pier 1, Mike?
Yes.
Where's
Correct.
Pier 1 going?
Apparently Pier 1's going.
As far as we know, they're leaving, but I have a call into the real estate department and trying to figure out what's going on there, and I just don't know. Joe, you're gonna have to turn those back, because it's on the camera. While they're setting up, their representatives are here tonight to talk to you about the concept plan for the current location of the Pier 1. Basically, what's proposed is the acquisition of the property, the demolition of the Pier 1 building, and the reconstruction with a new restaurant, and that would be about 4,900 square feet in size and have 136 seats, along with some outdoor seating. So they'll walk you through this. You've got all the information in with regards to your packet. If the committee feels that this is appropriate, or you want to give them direction as to the plans, that would be what is requested tonight. And if you feel that this should move forward, it would go into technical review and then an appearance before the Planning and Zoning Commission for a special use permit for the drive-through portion of the project. So there would also be certain setbacks for variations, primarily related to the dumpster location. So with that, I'll turn it over to Joe and the guy from Chick-fil-A.
Good evening. I'm the guy from Chick-fil-A. My name is Jason Hill. I work in our design and construction department, and I thank you for considering our proposal tonight. I thank you, John, for your patience over the last 3 years as we've kicked around a few sites in the community. We're very much looking forward to becoming a part of the community. So we've been looking for a long time, and we finally found a site that works very well for us. For those of you that don't know, Chick-fil-A is a family-owned company. We have about 1,600 locations nationwide. That includes our mall stores, which is how we started, as well as our freestanding units, which is what we're proposing here. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia, and our freestanding units were first developed in the late 80s. Before that, the company actually began in 1967 in a mall just outside of Atlanta, and we were actually one of the first food uses inside of a mall that was fast food. And so we kind of pioneered the food court idea as the malls evolved over the years. And as I stated, we started building freestanding units in the 80s, and we're very much so ramping up that program now and in the future. And as you may know, we just broke into the Chicago market, starting with our Fox Valley store in Aurora about 2.5 years ago. And this location is a very strategic location for us, and it's part of our expansion plan. We look to probably open it next year sometime. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding Chick-fil-A. And Joe Vavrina with HR Green is here to answer any questions that you may have regarding the specific details of the site. Thank you again.
What kind of issue do we have with parking at this site?
And Joe, you can jump in here. The parking plan that you see here tonight does comply with the annexation agreement for the River Tree property. Yeah. And again, like a lot of our properties, it's governed under a PUD and the zoning provisions of the PUD. The parking on here is actually less than what is typically required, but again, in the current zoning ordinance, but it is in compliance with the zoning provisions of that PUD.
Going back to what, 1985, 86?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe a little bit later.
Well, what would they need now?
It'd be one space for every 2 seats, plus one space for every 2 employees. And I think
they don't have enough space.
Well, under our zoning provisions, absolutely, but they are under the provisions of the annexation agreement and the PUD zoning provisions, so they are in compliance. That's what we enforce.
All right, Trustee Cook.
Since we're on the subject of the parking and the parking lot, with that, there would be the cross easements that employees and stuff could park over in the western edge of the other part of the lot, right?
Mm-hmm. They would have to work through an agreement that's similar to what we were talking with the Payway folks about.
Right.
They would have to work through an agreement with Inland to allow that to occur.
Okay. I like, let me tell you the good news. I like the building. I like virtually everything, that I see of it, with one major exception, and that's the fact that your main entrance, to get into your main entrance, you got to cross the dual drive-through. I am not opposed to dual drive-through lane. We have that in town. It works fine at Portillo's, but the pedestrian traffic does not have to cross that. Is there any way that could be, that you could extend it, drop it down, and move the parking lot closer to the building or something? Because I really, it's close to a deal breaker. The idea that at lunchtime you're going to have people parking their cars and then trying to navigate across a dual lane drive-through lane. That just frightens me big time.
Well, I guess as we look at that, or even your suggestion of, possibly relocating this and maybe pushing the parking up to the building where you have more of your traditional parking stalls and then you walk right into the building. I guess the issue that we have with that is if you were to try and incorporate this with the drive-through lane, you almost create a situation where that drive-through traffic now will stack up in, adjacent to this access aisle and almost cut off those spaces.
No, I'm talking about moving both pieces, because, look at that. You got handicap parking, and they're going to get out and go across 2 drive-through lanes. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And what I'm suggesting is you move the whole parking part up, and figure a way. Now, the problem then is additional access to it. I just can't see, or change the main entrance if you could somehow, because I just can't see people's main access to the building being across 2 lanes of drive-through.
typically how Chick-fil-A has handled this in the past, and Jason can jump in too as well, is,
Would, like patrol boys? What is your name?
my name is Joe Vavrina, HR Green, civil
You
engineer.
gotta develop a sense of humor. You know,
It's your Catholic school background that gets the
oh, the
patrol boy.
patrol boy thing? Yeah, okay. Well, a lot of people can relate to patrol boys.
Yeah.
Only if you lived in the city.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, I probably did. Okay. You want to speak to this, or he needs to speak to this, or you got to call Georgia, or what?
Absolutely.
Admittedly, this is not necessarily our preferred layout, but we have done many iterations of site plans on this site. And we do have other store locations, like a Schaumburg, that does have a scenario where we have parking and pedestrians have to cross over the drive-through to do it. Now, in order to make sure that there's no conflicts with vehicular traffic versus pedestrian traffic, we do, demarcate the crossing with a different colored concrete, so that it's clear to the drivers. And we also put appropriate signage up so that they can see that, pedestrians are crossing. Now, the other thing to add to that is we're not talking about, vehicular traffic that's moving at a rapid pace. It's a very slow, once they pull into the drive-through, everyone's going very slow. And yes, during our peak hours, we do have folks out there directing traffic as needed.
They're not
Where's your
directing
Schaumburg?
traffic, they're taking orders.
Well-
It's like Portillo's. You have a dedicated employee to kind of direct traffic?
Depending on the site. We did
Sure.
have that situation in Fox Valley when we had the traffic concerns there. We had employees out there kind of showing cars which way to go.
Point, and that drawing with the parking lot, where's the entrance?
The entrance is right here.
Yeah, that's problematic.
Where is your Schaumburg location?
It's on Gulf Road, just east of Plum Grove.
And you say that has the 2 lanes?
It does have the 2 lanes. The difference there is that the site is long, and so the crossing for pedestrians comes from the back of the lot. So there's there's parking up front, and then there's a bunch of parking in the back, and they cross from the back.
And do they have to cross the 2 lanes of drive-through?
By that time, it's narrowed down to 1 because it's just after the ordering stations. So it would essentially be where the sidewalk is shown on this particular plan.
Because I'd like to go down and take a look, see how that one looks down there. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And we are,
Is this outlet owned by Inland? Or are you buying this whole lot?
we're buying the whole lot.
From who? From,
Honestly, I don't know who the seller is.
okay, and the building itself, are you just kind of renovating, or are you
No, it's a
demolishing?
complete tear down.
Okay, are you gonna use the pad?
We will use as much of the pad as we can.
So that's why you don't wanna move it?
Right.
Because you'd have to move all your utilities and such?
Well, we do still have to relocate all the utilities to sync them up with our prototypical locations.
Yeah.
But the reason, again, and Joe can probably speak to this better because I just came onto this project, so I'm not aware of the history of how we came about with this site plan, but this site plan works well for us operationally while maxing out the parking. And it does give an efficient movement of the vehicular traffic on site.
Do we still have a moratorium on that regarding, non-generating sales tax places?
No, sir, we do not. And this wouldn't be in that anyway because it
Yeah,
does
well,
generate.
this is gonna be minimal at best.
It generates nickels.
Yeah.
In maybe instead of
Yeah.
flipping stuff, is there, you've got a lot of parking on the west and north and no entrance on the west or north. Is there a chance that the main entrance could be at that northwest corner of the building or something somehow?
If you look at the existing Pier 1 building, that's where their entrance is. I wonder if you could put your entrance
Yeah,
there.
the west side or the northwest side?
The north.
Somehow,
Okay.
either the west side or northwest side. Actually, if you put the main entrance on the west side,
That's where the
it
kids
would make
is,
it,
right?
well, but if you put it on the west side, it makes it the most available to all of your
All
parking.
of your
There
parking.
is a door there.
Right, there's a door,
There's an entrance door there.
there is a door
Even,
there.
Where
Yeah,
is
but I
it?
mean, I
Where-
would like to
where's
see
the
it be your main.
door?
It's right in here.
Yeah,
So you could make your main entrance there?
Actually, off to the side, it's right down here.
yeah, but see, that's a
Right there.
single door and your main entrance is on the south side, right?
Correct.
Yeah. that-
You could do it, I don't know if it could be, but I know you're using the pad, but you completely flip where the drive-through would be along the Milwaukee Road, which technically you're changing the building 90 degrees, and then your parking lot would be to the backside of the building. An entrance can be from side or back.
What, I mean, flip it at
Flip
full
it.
180?
No, 90.
90?
No, you can't go a long ways, I don't think on that. That
All right,
doesn't- that
can I
doesn't
ask
fit.
staff a
but
question?
also-
Chad, was any of this discussed with these guys? You've been, you haven't been having conversations with these guys for 3 years, have you?
Off and on,
Yeah?
yeah,
Well,
different,
did any of these thoughts
looking at different
enter
locations.
anybody's mind?
Well, looking at different locations throughout the community, I
Oh,
mean,
all
we've had multiple discussions about the site plan, and, you know, the crossing here, I talked to Trustee Cook today about that, and Joe and I had a conversation in attempts to try to address this. That site plan works. Is it ideal to the crossing? Not necessarily, but operationally, I think it probably works well for them. And, you know, where they'll be impacted with people crossing is at lunchtime. And, you know, if you read articles about what fast food is trying to do, they're trying to optimize the most number of cars through it at lunchtime in that peak hour between 12 and 1, or 11:45 to 1.
John, do I believe though, if I am correct, in fast foods, 65% of the business is drive-through? Is that correct?
We're about 60 on average.
So it's not correcting, but you will look
Our
at.
packet didn't have a west elevation.
Yeah,
Do you
I
have a-
just thought we
Do
don't
you have
have-
a drawing of the west elevation?
Nope.
Wait, there's another entrance on the east elevation?
No.
Well, I see a door.
Oh,
Is that an
yeah.
employee
Oh, yeah.
door?
Is that the west?
This is the west.
Is there any reason you left that out?
No, it should have been in there.
No, we have the west. Oh, no.
No, we don't.
No, that's the south. Is it the south? No?
Got north
Okay,
there.
we don't have that.
You just- and what's the one in the bottom?
That's south.
Here's west.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one we don't have.
Yeah, that's what we don't have.
There.
Not-
All right.
See, yeah, if there's a way you could move the prominent main entrance
Well, isn't that an
to that
entrance?
side. Well, but that's a single door. The prominent main entrance is the double door on the south side.
And then do you have another entrance on the east side? It looks
Not-
like
not
it
on the-
according to this. There's another door on the east side. Service
Service
door,
door, right.
okay.
Where's the kitchen at? All right.
Because that really is my only concern. I mean, everything else, I like everything else about it. That
Yeah.
just
Nice
is a
design.
serious
Yeah,
concern.
Well,
and I definitely understand where you're coming from on that, and
maybe if you look at the interior layout, you got a drawing on that? Maybe that'll help
No.
everybody. These are all
We didn't
exterior. I
have-
mean, what's the interior
We
layout?
didn't have one, so,
floor plan.
You don't have one?
we didn't get one,
No?
so, right.
Well, how's it, okay.
I mean, the
ki-
building-
The kitchen's to the east, right? The cooking area and the,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So when you walk in the door, you know, you can go left or right, obviously, but you're gonna go right.
If you go straight ahead, that's the queuing area for the cash registers.
And then all the
And they-
seating
you're right.
is to the west.
Seating's to the left, yeah.
Okay. well. So you think it's paramount they have a door right there? You know, the south elevation, the entrance into the store.
Absolutely, I mean, that's our main entry tower there, that's a big part of our.
Well, what if you put it on the north side? Is that problematic?
Well, yeah, it pushes the customers further from the cash registers. That main entry brings them in right there at the cash registers.
Well, if they walk in, do you think they're leaving? I mean, you know, seriously. I mean, okay, well, I'm just saying, that would eliminate half the problem if you put the entrance, I guess, it's the exit then on the north side, right? The drive-through.
Yeah, the
Kind of,
drive-through.
okay.
Yeah, see, this
All right,
door would
shit.
require guests to come in and kind of sneak through the dining room to get to the cafe.
All right, well, do you want to get this done or not? Because I got other stuff on the agenda, so, you know, whatever you guys get, you know, in all honesty, this is, you know, this is nothing special to the village,
Okay.
okay?
Can I ask why?
No, it's just, it's a fast food restaurant. We got plenty of them. So if you don't want to listen to what people are saying here at committee of the whole, that's your prerogative, and we'll move on, you know.
I don't want it to be,
You know.
I don't want it to sound like that's what I was saying. I was just saying I was concerned with the opening of the door. I have had lots of positive comments since you know, have talked to people about this, you know, presentation being made tonight. The comments have been very, very positive, and a lot of people that I've talked to have, you know, would like to see it come to town. I'm just raising this concern because it just does look like a.
What do you think
safety
you're going to
concern.
do here in sales?
I haven't seen the estimate, but ballpark, I'd say 3.2.
Okay.
And Chick-fil-A.
What 1% of 3.2 million?
Was that 3,200 bucks?
32,000?
32,000.
Okay. Whatever, you know, anybody else want to weigh in on this? But this isn't on my short list, this whole project.
Well, and
So,
one other thing
anyway.
I'd like to point out is that Chick-fil-A's community involvement is much, you know, much deeper than a typical fast food restaurant is. I mean, our operators own one store and they're focused
All right.
on that one
Yeah.
store.
Okay, whatever. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, the trustee, you have the,
I'm going to tell you that it's not one of my priorities to have another fast food restaurant in town. I'd rather see something else, so I wouldn't probably support your store.
yeah.
It's not what I would envision there, I'm sorry.
No, thank you for your honesty.
Sure.
You still
Okay.
closed on Sundays?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
You know, like I say, I'd really like to see it come to town. I'd like to see if we can work this out sometime.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anybody who's a transplant from the south, they've been asking for these because this is the predominant fast food franchise of the south, especially the Georges.
People have been clamoring for it here? Come on.
As much as they clamor for anything, as much as
Yeah.
they clamor for Dave Mason, who may need a defibrillator
Hey.
to get him up there, but that's all right.
It's not a very, you know, good segue. Come
I thought it
on.
was appropriate, another over-the-hill
No.
operation.
No. Okay, then, whatever. Okay.
Anyway.
Speak your piece.
The bottom line is, if you're a southern transplant, this gives you a kind of feeling of home. It'd be nice if we could figure out a way to get you in town.
Yeah.
This isn't exactly the most ideal location in my mind for a fast food franchise. I mean, but then again, we've got other locations that aren't ideal either. So if everybody's qualifications can be met, I'd be willing to go ahead with it.
If no, does everybody want to weigh in on this? Trustee Schwartz?
I don't have a problem with the concept, but I am as concerned as Trustee Cook is about the walking across the two lanes, so that would have to be fixed.
Okay, Trustee Markwart?
I'd have to say the same. It is another fast food restaurant, but again, with the name and stuff, it's a very good fast food restaurant that you have. Although, again, it's the same thing with the people walking across. If there's a way we can design it differently, then I have no problem with it.
There's a McDonald's in Heartland that has the double, and it gets a little dicey because they've got all their parking on the other side of the double line. And when it's backed up, it's not a problem, but it's actually the point in time when we'll say at 11:30, when you're not at your peak yet and people are trying to squeeze in there, a lot of people will kind of wheel in there pretty quick like. At least that's what I've seen up there. Heartland is in Wisconsin, the other side of Milwaukee.
Yeah, the one place we have in town that has a double lane has gone so far as to cone off their one access to it during peak hours, so that you have to go a second row over to get into the drive-through, just to avoid conflict with pedestrians.
Well, that would put the main entrance on that, where's the east elevation? Is there an entrance on the east elevation?
No, east is just,
See, well,
service center.
well, you know, you're thinking, I know you're talking about Portillo's, and yeah, literally, you walk in the front door, and that would help, but that's where their kitchen is apparently, so,
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, fine, you want to give him the speech, Bob? You know.
Yes, I get a speaking part. Generally, my speaking part is directed to those applicants who walk out feeling that there were no issues and it's going to be a slam dunk and the village board loved everything. And my message to them is this is just advisory. It gives you a preliminary reaction and nothing that the village board says tonight is binding on them. You heard some concerns, so you know what you need to deal with, but it's not a binding vote. It's just to give you an idea of what their preliminary reaction is.
Great. Well, thank you for your time tonight.
So preliminarily, you might have a chance. If it's 3-3, you don't have a chance. That means I get the vote.
Okay.
Unless you comply with some of the requests that are made here.
Well,
And I'm
we'll
sure you've
work
done
on
your
that.
pro forma and you realize this is a wonderful, wonderful location. So talk
Yeah, we
amongst
wouldn't be here
yourselves
tonight
when
if
you
we weren't.
leave here tonight. Okay?
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah?
How would the board feel if we kind of reworked the site and tried to redo the drive-through lane, where the drive-through lane kind of wrapped around the front and then off the back, to where we can try and separate that? Would there be any opposition to having the drive-through lane between Milwaukee and the building?
That was my suggestion. If you
Okay.
turn the building, move it to the front, and your
Right.
drive-through would be towards Milwaukee.
We might be able to work something out in that fashion. I just didn't know what the reaction would be if we had the drive-through lane between the building and
Basically, anything that would eliminate the pedestrian drive-through
Conflict, the conflict.
Yeah, that's really all I'm looking for, is something to eliminate that conflict.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
We'll take it back and work on it.
Yeah.
So you didn't bring Plan B with you tonight?
I'm sure we've got Plan M by now.
He's working on a sense of humor for you.
Well, jump back, Loretta. All right, let's keep moving here then. All right, guys.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
You know, we'll see you, and we'll try to work with you within reason.
Sounds great.
Even though you generate $32,000 a year for us. Whoop-de-doo.
What did Pier 1 generate this last year? We have any clue?
Probably nothing. They're not open, are they?
Who? I'm sorry.
Oh, they're still open, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're still
Yeah.
open.
This is better than putting a bank in.
Yes.
I mean, I could, I'll give them that much due.
Yes, sir.
Come on.
Oh, yes, he is. Well, the peacocks.
Oh, God. Okay, fine.
ridiculous.
All right, what's next?
Friday.
Okay. Is there any reason why we can't approve this? Is there anybody here from TGI Fridays? Okay, you don't have to come up here necessarily.
Well,
There-
give him a chance to
Well,
pitch
He's been
it.
sitting here all
Well, I
night.
mean,
Well,
advertised.
is there a motion to approve?
Second.
May I?
Motion is second.
Wait.
Comments or questions, you're good. You can speak.
Wait.
I appreciate it. I don't know if I need a mic or not, if y'all can hear me.
Yeah,
Yes, you
use
do.
the mic.
For
I do need a
TV.
mic. I apologize. No, I mean, I don't want to take up any more of the board's time. I just want to let you know that, I've operated in this village for 13 years, and I really love doing business with y'all.
What's your event? That's, I'm
It's a-
giving you an
it's a-
opportunity.
I
here.
apologize. It's a car show, and we're going to do a classic car show, 69, pre-69. We plan on serving beer outside.
Sure.
We'll be fencing off the entire event. I have contacts within the Pioneer Press and the Daily Herald, so once approval of permits is granted, if that is the case,
Are you the owner?
I'm the operator. It's a corporate loaned.
Oh, okay.
It's a corporate
What's your name,
facility.
please?
My name's James L. Fellinger.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm the general manager at that location. And like I said, once and if those permits are approved, I would, you know, hopefully provide some press and bring some business to the village. Sure. That's my intention, is to build sales for my location. And, you know, I hope I have your approval, and I hope you all would come and join us. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And when is it?
August 5th from 4 to 8 p.m. is the time we had slotted. I didn't want to interact with any of the village events.
What week of day?
That's a Sunday.
Yeah, okay.
Sunday afternoon. It should be nice and warm, and weather should not be a concern. And, you know, I got the plot of survey and sat down with Monica, and we should be able to keep that all on our property, so we're not affecting Sports
Didn't have
Authority.
any motorcycles there?
You know, we haven't had any, we've had several car clubs approach us, and there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement about being a part of this, just with the location, and TGI Fridays has that nostalgic, iconic presence. So, you know, I've kind of put a lot of things on hold, waiting for approval of the permits, and that we were able to move forward.
Yeah.
But we want to keep it pre-69. So
All right, Mike Atkinson, Building Commissioner.
Oh, if I could, please, in the motion, if we could include approval to serve alcohol in the parking lot as part of the event, which is otherwise not permitted by the village's ordinance. And then also in accordance with the conditions outlined in your packet.
We've done that before, like with Tilted Kilt and PNC, or didn't the bank do something down at the? Maybe that was a carnival though.
Yeah,
They didn't do
definitely
anything.
for Tilted Kilt, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fenced off, so
Yeah.
that's the.
Yeah, we were going to use the disposable, I think I put the exact model number of the fencing that we're going to be using, but the disposable orange checkered fence will take off the whole parking lot. And in my proposal, it would be beer and frozen margaritas is what we're requesting, so that was on the table.
All right, so is there a motion directing staff to prepare a resolution authorizing the special event, including the outdoor service of alcohol in the parking lot?
I made that motion, yes.
All right.
Second it, again.
Anything, motion is second? Do we have to include the garbage receptacles in the motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Does the first and second agree germane to the garbage receptacles shall be provided in the general vicinity, shall be cleaned immediately following the event?
Yes.
Okay, first and second agrees. All right, roll call.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Take care. Okay, request for an outdoor dining and seating establishment permit for 8-piece restaurant, 1220 Route 45, Unit 300.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, this will look similar to the outdoor seating that's already provided at the Giuseppe's Pizza Place. They're just a couple doors down. The tables and chairs would be immediately in front of the restaurant. There'd be 3 tables there with a seating capacity of 8 customers. They would maintain a 6-foot, 6-inch wide walkway between the curb and the dining area. The layout is attached to your packet along with the application. And for tonight's meeting, if the board feels that this request is appropriate, then staff should be directed to prepare a resolution approving the request, subject to the conditions outlined in your
Who are you, please?
I'm Steve An, owner of the restaurant.
Okay, you own it?
Yes.
Okay. You do sushi there, right?
Oh, we do rolls only over there. So there's a
Rolls?
little difference between sushi and rolls. I mean,
okay.
we are strictly 8-piece rolls only. So it's just seaweed and rice wrapped in stuffs inside. And then it's customize your own sushi roll, so you can customize your own toppings and an inside. And then we don't deal with
What have you
any.
been there? How long you been there now?
We opened in December the 4th last year.
You haven't, yeah. Do you know him back there?
Good.
Oh.
The landlord.
You should say hello to the landlord. You ever meet him?
Yeah, I met her before.
You know who that is?
I didn't know she was here today.
You know his name?
Yeah, Margie.
Well, that's Margie, but his name.
That's who he knows.
Oh, I do not.
That's Cy Taxman.
Nice to meet you.
No,
Why don't you
we
go
won't-
say hello to
we
him? I'll
won't.
let you get- All right, you can say, I'm sorry.
Motion to direct staff to prepare the necessary ordinances to allow for.
Blah, blah, blah.
8 seating in front of 8-piece.
Trustee Cook?
I just had a question, because the drawings were a little difficult to
Yes.
to figure out. when you say the parking lot, you've got then 80 inches between the curb and the first table? Is that what it is, if I'm looking at these drawings right?
Yes.
Inches.
Because I can't, it's very, I mean, I would like to have had a more detailed site-type drawing, but
What he's
That's
saying
what
is, do you have
Atkinson said.
80 inches between the curb and the table? Is that what you're saying? The curb, the curb of the
parking.
park, and there's 80 inches there,
So,
correct?
so there's at least 6 feet of sidewalk still available.
To go around?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's what I was wondering, because it seemed like,
Doesn't seem like the.
was there that much room out in front of that building?
Yeah,
Mike
there-
Atkins,
yeah,
what
there
do you
is.
say?
There is?
188 inches? That's-
Yes. If you wish.
I mean,
could-
that's like 15 feet, so it's,
Yeah.
so we'll still have like 6 feet of sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I was concerned.
Okay.
Do you do a menu with the beer market?
Yes, we do.
Good.
Is this your drawing
Yeah, that was my drawing.
personally?
Sorry?
You did this yourself?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, is there a motion and a second
Yes, there is.
to approve? Okay. Any further comments or questions? If not, roll call.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank
You're
you very
okay.
much.
You're-
Thank you.
You're good to go. Okay. Another request for an outdoor dining and seating establishment permit for Real Urban Barbecue.
And-
Well, he already left.
Yeah, he appears to have left the building, Mr. Mayor. It's the board's decision. We can still consider the request if you wish, or
Yeah.
continue it to another meeting. I would
Oh.
suggest if no one has an issue, that we still consider the request tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any staff comments or recommendations? on it?
Sure, I mean, you could tell by looking at the site plan that the dining area and seating area would be located on a patio adjacent to the west side of the restaurant.
Yeah.
And this patio was contemplated as there being outdoor dining at this location at the time that the PUD, or in this case, the amended PUD, was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and Village Board. So this is right where we expected to have outdoor dining. For Real Urban Barbecue, there'd be 7 tables with a seating capacity of 36 customers. There would be a fence around this location. It's immediately adjacent to the parking lot, and they would be potentially drinking beer and wine, so we did ask for a fence around this location. And if the board feels that the outdoor dining is appropriate, then staff should be directed to prepare a resolution approving the request, subject to the conditions outlined in your packet.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the
That
board on this?
that is a fence around there. Just a point of information, Trustee Cook and I,
Yeah, that's what we got.
we just got a big white drawing with a red X through it.
You have too much in your system.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Here, I can tell you that.
The only thing
No.
I've got open is
Trust me,
this.
we haven't filled up this.
Yeah, they haven't opened up anything.
Here, let me try
Do you
to.
want to look at this?
No, I got
Trustee Hebda's,
I've got it over
Yeah.
there. So there's,
but that is a fence around there?
That is a fence around it. It's,
Yeah.
it'll be black anodized aluminum, similar to
What's
what you
the height?
saw. 36 inches. It'll be almost identical to what you see at Tom and Eddie's.
oh, okay, that's,
But anyone walking through the area is gonna have to walk through this. There's no other place to walk, correct?
They could
Yeah.
take it, look-
Well, the thought is that, you know, this is off to the corner,
That's a lot.
and there isn't, in other words, you're not gonna use the sidewalk to walk through to get to the store, some other store other than Real Urban Barbecue.
No, no, this
So
is.
it's not a throughway, so we thought it was appropriate.
Because they're the last one before the, for the bank. or
Correct.
the
yeah, I can't.
Oh,
street.
That's
okay.
correct.
Because they're in
Well, no,
here,
I'm sorry, the
most
entrance is
people
here.
are gonna walk around here.
Okay.
Are there 2 doors? Are there 2 doors to the, when you take a look at the drawing,
Si, what
You see
is
it-
there? 2 doors, 1 door?
Only
Is it
one to
double
the-
There's only
door?
one door.
They actually put in a round revolving door.
Okay.
They actually moved the door so that there would not be this kind of cross pedestrian
Yeah.
traffic.
Side taxman from.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
That's fine.
All right. Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve?
Directing staff to prepare a
Motion to
resolution.
direct staff to prepare the necessary ordinance, including any limitations that they see fit.
Second.
Is that what you want, Mike? All right, there's a motion and a second, right?
Yeah, I have it.
No.
Roll call.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Motion carries.
For the parking, this is
Is this for tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
For the next topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the next.
The next topic is Vernon Hills Town Center, parking update, and we have, Si, you want to state your name for the record, please?
My name is Cy Taxman. I am the principal owner of the LLC that owns VHTC.
And who's your?
And Margie
your-
Georgopoulos, who's passing
Margie.
everything out, is really my direct boss.
Right.
And really runs this whole situation.
Right.
But to be very honest with all of you, several things have happened. One, Trustee Schultz, we no longer have a sign out on Milwaukee Avenue.
God bless Cy.
Promised you it'd be gone, and it's gone. Number two, we're 100% leased, and we have the actually good problem to be faced with, which is
Right.
not enough parking, even though we provided 6.56 cars per thousand, which is well above what would normally be required. We're having a tremendous turnout there, and we're excited about it. Now we're going to try and figure out how we can resolve the problem. One of the temporary fixes is shown in this drawing. And basically, in our site plan originally, we had proposed a building on this site. And it's zoned in, as I recall, John, to 5,000 square foot building, plus or minus on that pad. We have elected at this point to mothball any building on it and temporarily create that as an employee parking lot or a valet lot. And we're asking for permission to build it not per your normal specifications, because it is not going to be a normal lot for customers. It is a lot that will be restricted to employees and/or valet parking. The way we're going to restrict as far as employees, every employee at that center currently has been issued a decal for their car. Their license plates are registered with us and with the towing company. If they are not in an appropriate area, they will be given one warning, and after that, it'll cost them $200 to retrieve their car. It's really the only way to deal with it. And Margie has been working very closely with a qualified valet company to come up with an overall plan, which we are not ready to implement unless we know we can use this temporary lot. Because this gives us 40-plus cars that can be used. Actually, this shows, I think, approximately 35. But if these are being valeted, then we can actually put more cars on here than are shown. The striping is just to show you that if it's being done non-valet, we can get 35 cars on it. This is a temporary fix. We've asked the cooperation of the staff in a couple of different ways. Number one, approve this as a temporary lot. Lot will still be stoned. It'll still be drained. However, it will not have a finished asphalt coat. They use what is called asphalt fines that are put on as a finish coat. It's rolled, and it's a temporary lot. And it's probably good for 2-3 years. It's not a lifetime lot. We have asked the village and the staff to consider some street parking along Roger Byrne Boulevard. And we are very actively involved. Thanks, Michael, for putting us together with the College of Lake County. We're trying very hard to work out a situation where the college will allow us to use a portion of their lot after 6 o'clock each night. Typically, we really only need it at this point Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I believe we'll need it all week once Real Urban Barbecue opens. We saw him leaving the building as we were coming in. He has had such a tremendous reception. He hasn't even closely opened from this area. Corporate, catering, carryout. I mean, I think it's going to be the highest volume per square foot restaurant in your town. I think we can handle it. It's not going to be easy, but those are good problems. It's a lot better than the problem I had years ago in Niles when I had Jewel Osco, Turnstile, and another Jewel-related company open, and I had a 10.5-acre parking lot empty. We were playing football in the lot. That's really sad. Here, we have a challenge. I think we've had a great relationship private sector and the village. And I think if we work together, we'll figure it out. This is one alternative. If it looks like that we need to make this a permanent lot, we'll make it permanent, and we'll just abandon the additional building.
Well, let me ask, you know, question of staff. Dave, what do you think of this parking lot? I mean, you know, the request being made using, you know, the materials that are being recommended by SI.
Yes. Looking at your cross-section, Si, putting some larger rock down, and then looking to cap that with some asphalt, grinding, screenings, whatever. It'd be interesting in terms of the maintenance of it, dealing with this over the winter time. I think we can try to come to a resolution of it. I just want to talk a little bit more on really what we're trying to put down, what we're
Well,
trying
I'm
to
just, you know, and, you know, talking out loud, here we got everybody kind of, you know, operating now with requests for outdoor this, outdoor that. Obviously, you're not going to be outdoor too much, you know, probably September, depends on how the weather changes, you know. And that doesn't mean you know, at the beer market, people aren't going to go sit outside on a fall afternoon, or when maybe somebody would sit outside at these other restaurants that have requested the outdoor seating. So, you know, the question is, okay, do you have the same volume that you're going to have in the spring, summer, and the fall, you know?
Yeah, and to properly answer that, I think one of the things that you may want to consider a little bit further is if you have asphalt grindings, the fines, when you go to snowplow that, you're going to push all that material, and then you're going to have to rework it, et cetera. So
Dave,
maybe we need to look at the surface.
We looked at it very carefully, and let me tell you frankly where we're at. This lot, the way it's currently designed, will cost me $16,800. To put in a lot per spec, per the village spec, and what you're talking about, would cost me as a temporary lot close to $80,000. We cannot do it. I'll leave it in grass. I mean, I can go only so far. Now, I live in a home in a fairly expensive area where I have a giant driveway that is covered with gravel. And every winter, they come in and plow it, and it's over into the bushes. In the spring, I have people come out and re-gravel it. And if that's what I have to do to maintain this for a couple of years, we'll do it here. I mean, it is not perfect. All I'm doing is giving up, just as a small indication, at minimum, I'm giving up $500,000 in net profit on this lot so that we can kind of mothball and try and figure it out. I know where the ultimate solution is.
Yeah, and that discussion, I
Right.
guess, is ongoing,
Right.
and
And really, beside the College of Lake County, the real solution to this problem is, they said in the Western days, look west, young man, and look at that vacant stuff sitting there forever and ever and ever. And we stood ready, willing, and able to develop it, and
Right.
still do today.
And those you know, you know, plans and your vision are still alive.
Oh, there's no question.
But that's going to involve, you know, talking with the college, talking with Opus, and having some.
But we can't wait to do this, frankly, the way you'd like to do it. We need to make a decision. If it's going to be grass, we'll leave it at grass. If not, we want to improve it. We're going to look, it's still $16,000, $17,000 plus the cost of maintenance every year while this is going on.
And the size of this is what, an acre and a half or acre?
No,
two?
it's not even that big. I think it's barely an acre, if that.
Yeah.
Is there some solution other than screenings and permanent?
Well, yeah.
3 years down the road, for example, you've talked that you would remove this, put a new parking lot in.
What I'm
There's an
saying is
extent
that
there,
if
too.
this is still here 3 years from now as a temporary lot, okay, it is no longer temporary in my mind. We haven't come up with a solution. We
Yeah.
have to then.
But this
come up
is
with permanent
this could be done post haste to accommodate the parking that's needed there now.
That's exactly what this is. This is a Band-Aid, okay, on a problem that we have to deal with, and we're going to deal with it.
Can we put some ointment under the Band-Aid?
Yeah.
Well, Dave, what would the timing be to, not to put you under the gun, but to review this? I'm just thinking, if the board would be inclined to look at this, can we look at the college, see how quickly that'll happen? And I understand
And
it
that'll
won't-
take a while.
Yeah, it won't happen quickly. but, you know, it would be a shame for you, Si, to spend your money and implement this, and then 2 weeks later, the college makes a decision. And I'm not predicting success there,
But you're talking about doing this when?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Well, accepting we need to, and that's my question, we need to review it and take a look at it, even a temporary.
Right.
This is important to the village. Whatever the proposal is, whatever the board decides,
right,
we're gonna review it right away. I can work it on a 48-hour turnaround, you know, we'll get it done.
Can we bring
Let's
it
just
back
figure
for
out what we
board
should do.
approval at the next meeting? Or can we give him, if we decide to give him approval tonight,
No.
he can do it?
Well,
And then what we
no,
come back though at board level and take
I
the
think
position?
you're at a committee level right now.
Right.
So it would have to be, it would have to come back to the board.
Yeah.
And we'll have to talk, and I'd like to talk to Bob about this because, I mean, technically speaking, you have a PUD that's across this entire property. It does not recognize this type of improvement whatsoever. It's a buildable lot, so we're gonna have to figure out what type of approval would have to be granted along with waiving the development ordinance requirements for a parking lot, which we haven't done typically in the past. So,
So basically, Mariano's, that wasn't a PUD?
no, it was, absolutely it was, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so this is at a much smaller scale.
Well, no, it's actually comparable to Mariano's PUD.
Okay, well, we
So,
are,
but again,
obviously we got that done.
but from the waiver of the improvement requirements,
Right.
they're not comparable. So we gotta figure out how to do that and how to do the parking lot. And then are there conditions that you wanna place upon that that says in X number of months, if it remains this, then it needs to go to this level
All
of
right,
improvement?
well, yeah, I mean like 2 years or something, or 18 months?
It's something like that. Because again, I think as Dave has said, you know, the improvements that are gonna be done are gonna be minimal to provide the surface for this parking.
Right.
But we get a good freeze-thaw action going in the winter, or we do 2 winters, and that thing is gonna go like this.
Well, and I think Si understands that, and you'd have to, you know, what would you do then if it really heaves and all that?
Well,
You'd have to do
let me
something.
respond to it, because there are other alternatives. And the alternatives, which I think are very feasible, are just outlandishly expensive, but they'll work. And one of them is a product, I'll give you the name in a minute, but I think for lack of a better term, they're called grass pavers. And basically, it's a system of polyurethane. And these are, it looks like a honeycomb. And they're actually put into the soil, into the natural soil. And it allows normal drainage, okay? You can plant grass seed, you'll never even know they're there. And you can pull one of your ambulances out there, you can put one of your fire trucks on it.
we're familiar
Okay.
with it.
Now, that
At
could
the
be done.
entrance, It's at the emergency entrance to the
Yeah.
Grosse Pointe, the carriages.
Yeah, that could be done. It's usually done by a landscaper more than it is by a paving contractor. It could resolve this really more as a long-term play. Frankly, the cost for us is prohibitive. This is a TIF district. I haven't asked you guys for anything in the TIF district. If it's that important to the village that we go to that level, then I think we got to revisit that. I mean, there's just so many dollars. You know, when I promised you, Trustee Schultz, that I was going to put a cap on the building, it was done, okay, at a very significant cost. We've done this over and over again. This is a temporary fix.
Right.
And I'm asking the board to deal with this and staff to deal with this as a temporary fix. If you want to set 2 years or 3 years, whatever is your temporary time frame, I don't have any problem with that. I think it's very important. You had a tenant in here tonight, Real Urban Barbecue. That is, I am telling you, a month ago, Margie and I were called at night and asked to come out here. He's that concerned about what's going on. And we need to show that we're trying to do something positive.
Well,
We need to
plus
do
you
it now.
got the Halsted Street Deli.
Well, I haven't even counted them yet.
Right.
I mean, the fact is, this is a great problem, but it's on a temporary basis. I think it can be solved, and really the risk on this temper is mine.
Yeah,
100%.
my only concern is I'm not familiar with the material that you're talking about unless you're talking about mixing it with some kind of a, you know, bitumen to create basically a chip seal.
Well, I have the specifications from the contractor.
Yeah, well, you know, right now, tonight is not kind of the right time to do the design engineering. I'd be more than happy to work and be the board representative with Dave on this, but I tend to agree that we want to keep it at a low cost. We understand where you're at. We understand we want this to keep thriving, but on the other hand, no, it needs to be somewhat durable enough. Now, we have to figure out the legal hurdles here too, because those are significant. We've never done this before, I mean, for anything. So we do have some concerns there, but if I can be convinced that it's a reasonable, durable surface, and I've been exposed to a number of temporary, permanent surfaces, if we can get to that level, I'd be more than happy to try and sway my fellow board members of a...
Dave, I think the issue, if I might, is really not the issue of the surface. The real issue in terms of stability here is the base. And this base that they're putting in here, that has to be put in place, it has to be rolled, okay? And then these so-called fines, which are really what amounts to excess paving pieces that are being brought back in and rolled out there. The fact is, you're gonna have a very stable base in the underground that's being put on here.
Understood, but it's still, the way I'm understanding, without the bitumen added to it, it is not an impervious surface.
Look, it's your call.
So
I can only bring it as a solution.
Okay. I want to be helpful here, but I'm just saying that,
Basically,
I'm not saying that we need 8 inches of asphalt here. I'm not
Right.
even, but it needs to be something that's durable.
Is this tantamount to what Cy's suggesting as to what we did at White Deer Run with the paths?
Yes.
So what would be the thickness of the entrails or what do you call them? Entails or whatever the hell. Cody was dumping out there in the middle of the night. What the hell, you know?
You know, I guess, Cy, we're trying to discuss, trying to figure out what the best option is. I guess really what staff would like to hear from the board is, you know, there's a permanent solution, there's a temporary solution. Whatever the board's desire is on that, please advise staff. If the decision is that it's temporary, I would like to work with this side to try to figure out what your best cross-section is. When your stability is important, you're proposing 5 inches of 3-inch rock. So you have 3-inch rock that needs to be in layers. So you have a 3-inch rock here, and you put a 3-inch rock here. I mean, it doesn't lock, anyway. So I think we can look at this and we can get you a better parking lot that may last you the 3 years. But the asphalt grindings that you're talking about, we're very familiar with. As the mayor said, we've used this when White Deer Run was building their golf courses. The stuff rolls around like marbles back and forth. You want it really to lock in. We've also received this as part of our road rehab project. We donate it out to Cuneo, and for the Holiday Light Show, we add this material all the time. We know it is free, low cost. That's important to us too. But we know that this material will roll all over the place if it's not locked in and contained. So I think I need to hear permanent, temporary. If the option is temporary, I would rather spend some time with you and get you the best thing for your money and have that discussion.
We'd be happy to have the contractors meet directly with you. And
Yeah, well,
from
I
our
don't
point
have a
of view,
problem
it would
with that
be
either.
fine.
I know your contractor. I would be more than happy to.
And see if you can work it out. That would be
All
fine.
right, Trustee Schwartz, Sander.
I'm not sure, I didn't hear the what is the permanent solution, or you're not sure what the permanent solution is at this
I
point
think I think there's basically 2 permanent solutions, in quote permanent. One is the ability to share the use of the College of Lake County parking lot on hours that the county does not use it, and providing the county with appropriate insurance and maintenance and everything else that's needed. That gives us a very significant base of cars that can, in our view of it, would be primarily employee cars.
But you're saying that could take quite a while to get that.
Well, I mean, we're ready to do the deal tomorrow. We've talked with them. But
Well, maybe I should explain. What it needs to, we have to meet with their operations person. Then the operations person has to make a recommendation to the VP over operations. Their executive committee gets together, they make a recommendation, hopefully that's all positive.
Right.
Then it goes to the CLC board, and you know how that is. It has
So
to
then
go to a board.
what was your other
Well, that's
permanent
part of the
solution?
solution. Part of the other is to take advantage potentially of some on-street parking. And that's going to be a relatively small part of the solution, but every little bit helps. I mean, if we had 15 cars here and 30 cars here, all of a sudden, you're parking 45 employee cars. And you're getting them off of the lot that really should be used by customers.
Well, that's something that can be. that
Well, the
can be
chief's
done
giving me
quickly,
the high
can't it?
sign, there's no problems
Yeah,
parking
so that
on
can be done.
Burn Boulevard.
People will be walking all over you, Mr. Mayor,
Is it okay?
driving over you too.
Yes.
So-
Dave and I,
How many would that, 10, 15?
maybe 15, yeah, Dave and I went out and
We
looked, the
figured
roadway's
15
about 30
15
feet
cars.
wide. There's no problem with parking
So
on
that
one side of the
then
street.
that permanent solution's already set and we can do that, but do we still need more parking than that?
Yes.
My
Yeah.
opinion, we definitely need more parking. I mean, it's somewhat,
So if CLC.
it's astounding, but true, that we need it.
If CLC says no for whatever reason, then do you have another permanent solution?
Well, I do have one, but we need cooperation of another party again, who's done nothing here in the village
Begins with
for
an
many
O.
years. Begins with an O and it's 4
Yeah.
letters, so.
But there's other synergies going on.
So
But
until
this
that
is-
time, you want to do this temporary lot till we can figure
That's the only
everything
reason
else
I
out.
came
Okay.
in and asked for this,
Right.
extraordinary move, that's all.
Trustee Cook.
But Dave's question was temporary permit. I don't have a problem with this being temporary because, again, Mr. Taxman has a good track record of following up on what he's told us he would do in that. And so if we make this temporary for the time being and continue to look at more permanent solutions, I don't know.
I'm sure, Cy would prefer to sell the lot and build something there than make it a parking lot.
Well,
At-
you know
At
what?
some point in the future, so, okay. to move this
We have a
on,
lot of incentives to make this a
Can
permanent
we
solution.
turn, staff and council loose and turn Dave loose with your contractor and try to bring this back in 2 weeks?
May I propose two,
When's our next meeting?
The 10th.
Oh, okay, July 10th.
may I propose two motions? One, to direct staff to prepare the necessary ordinance changes
Yeah.
for the parking on Burn Boulevard. And then the second would be to direct staff to investigate and move forward with all due diligence, the work necessary to evaluate a temporary parking solution on the,
Well,
whatever it is,
and
Lot G.
Can they start parking on Burn Boulevard, like post haste? Is there any
Sure.
reason?
Sure.
Yeah,
We
sure
got-
we can
we
do that.
just-
We
we
can
just
take
need
the
to put up
signs
sign-
down and then we won't enforce them.
Right.
Let's do that
Right.
then.
But only on one side of the street.
Right.
The northbound side of the street is recommended per the drawing.
Right.
We do have a center line stripe, so we do need to black that out so people, when parking's on one side, both people can move back and forth. I think that part is a good solution. We'll have additional parking, and we still will have 2 10.5 to 11-foot lanes for people to go north and south. So I think that part's a good solution.
We'll just
So
have
wi-
that
within that
ordinance.
first motion, then add those conditions.
All right, this is a motion, is there a second?
Second.
This is on the first motion for Burn Boulevard
Park
parking.
there.
Burn.
All right,
I mean, thank you, first of all, for your thoughts, but when you ask, is this gonna be temporary or permanent, where we go, it's surprising what success does. 3 years ago, it was difficult to get anybody to talk about anything, retail, restaurant, otherwise, at this site. Today, we have a waiting list of, matter of fact, there's 2 major companies that if we had the land, that we could tie into this, ready to commit to us, and their uses are such that require very little parking. And we would have the use of that land then at night for parking here, and probably would solve the whole thing immediately. So, it's just a matter of getting a couple of people to move, that's all.
Well, we got all summer. Summer starts tomorrow.
You know, today actually you convinced me that this board meeting, maybe you ought to consider that this board be a candidate for a reality show after tonight. Because you've done a great job.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, there's a motion and a second on parking on Byrne Boulevard.
Correct.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, motion 2 is,
To direct staff to begin the investigative process to establish a temporary parking lot on Lot G of the Vernon Hills Town Center.
okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, roll call.
Aye.
Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Trustee Schultz?
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams?
Motion carries.
Thank you much. I also want you to thank Margie Georgopoulos, because some of you remember she stepped in a very difficult time, came back, and really carried the ball through to completion. It's really
Okay,
good.
Margie, thank you.
Who's
Yeah, 'cause
spearheading
it's a
your
nice mix of-
conversations with CLC? How are you guys handling that?
Oh, it's going.
I've
Are
had
you-
contact, and really,
Mike, okay,
Mike has
just so-
handled it, and
Okay.
and I think there may be other things going on, but I've just dealt with.
What,
the
you want
staff
to
people.
jump into the fray?
No, well, Tom's the liaison to CL. I don't know what we can
Okay,
do to maybe move that
know it's
process
vacation
along so
time.
that you have another.
As long as you're going to do that, maybe we ought to talk about, if they'd like to sell us the land there
Yeah,
next to
that
us,
would
and
be
nice.
we could expand that way and be done with it.
I
Yes.
did mention it
Did
to
you?
him, that one conversation I had and he, you know, again, on the phone conversation, he said, I talked about public-private partnership, and he said, well, you know, maybe
Well,
we
it just
could
would be nice to
talk
be
about
able to get, that lot is
No,
empty
I'll
at
talk to
night.
Mike after the meeting.
Yeah, because Tom's. the
And I'm
liaison.
available almost anytime.
Yeah.
We'll
'Cause
work
they-
on
'cause
the.
They, I know from having sat on the advisory board there for a number of years now, they do like having everything that's to the south of them. It's a plus for them too, so they're.
Oh, yeah, the more if we could get that, we'd solve the whole problem.
Yeah, you would, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
We'll put up a conference center for him, right? Okay,
Thank you, Sonny.
all right,
Thank
take
you,
care.
Sonny.
All right, next item, should I just leave? Can I leave now? Oh, Project Turf.
No, no, no.
In-car video system.
In-car
Oh,
video.
okay,
This is me.
sorry. Jumping down to the last.
This next item here, the in-car video cameras or digital video recorders, DVRs, whatever you want to call them, we have an issue that I want to run past the board, looking for some advice, guidance, whatever you want to call it. We've had DVRs in our squad cars for about 10 years. We started off with one car as a test car. We added 2, 3, 4 more every year until we had them in all 18 of our black and white patrol units. These first units we had were VCRs, VHS units, and you know, when their life expectancy ran out, we replaced those with the digital video recorders, which is what we currently have today. These systems are expensive to install, maintain, and upgrade. And unfortunately, like every other piece of technology we use, they need to be upgraded to keep them working properly. Every year we try to replace about 20% of the cameras in our vehicles to keep up with changes in technology, and we spend about $20,000 a year annually, a little redundant, we spend about $20,000 a year annually for the maintenance and installation of new units. Recently, we just hit a major technology snag, which along with several other issues is causing us to rethink the whole idea of having the cameras in the cars. Now there's a whole memo in your board packet which outlines the issues, but essentially when we are replacing our in-car computers with the newest models, we replace several of those every year as well. They operate on a Windows 7 platform. The current system we have is so old it will not function on the Windows 7 platform. The fix for that is each unit needs to be upgraded at the cost of about $1,000 per unit. There's 18 units. However, Each of the units are 4 to 6 years old. When they were replaced with the digital units, they were given to us by the company who wanted to use our department as a showcase to showcase the cameras and how well they integrated with our laptops. So we didn't actually pay anything for these cameras, so we've gotten away without them for quite a while. But they were all replaced at about the same time. They're all between 5 and 6 years old, and they are nearing their life's end. Right now, out of 18 units, there are only 3 that are operational. Now, depending upon the vendor, the ballpark estimates range from $65,000 to $105,000 to replace these units. And the annual maintenance costs, as I mentioned, are about $20,000 a year. We're running into an issue here is what do we do with these, what's the value of these, and what are the ramifications? You know, unfortunately, the public expects, fortunately, unfortunately, the public expects that when the video cameras are in the cars, they expect HD quality, cinematography quality videos where there's a camera crew, just like on TV, that follows the officer's actions, and that everything works perfectly. I don't know about you, but the little numbers on my VCR at home, the little 12 still flashes, because I haven't figured out how to fix it yet. And even when I do fix it and set it up to record, somehow whatever it is I'm recording doesn't get recorded. These systems are not all that much different. We have a tremendous amount of technology in the cars, and every time we add a new piece of technology to try to fix a problem, it creates another link in the system. And every link that we have, somewhere along the line, can get broken. You know, we were caught in a very embarrassing situation 4 or 5 years ago. Don't want to mention the case, but it was a DUI case where neither one of the cameras recorded the incident. The fact was none of the cameras were working in the cars because of the way the system was installed and working with their hard drives. To that extent, we added, to fix that, we added a whole series of fixes that now when the officer pulls into the station and turns off the car, another server picks up the signals from the car, and those things are, and the recordings are downloaded to a server inside our building. Guess what? Sometimes those things go off into space somewhere. They're downloaded from the car, but they never make it inside the building. It's another cause for concern. These systems, as I mentioned, just don't work perfectly. And now the final straw is the courts have begun looking at these camera systems as if you have cameras in your cars and you don't have the incident recorded, it must be because you deleted it and you're purposely trying to hide something. That issue was raised 2 or 3 times with the case I was just talking about before. The Supreme Court, the Illinois Supreme Court, just recently ruled that in a case where the police department's policy was to keep all recordings, whether it be telephone, video, et cetera, for 30 days, and if it's not contested, those things are deleted. In this case, they had a DUI where the case was, where the person was arrested, it was recorded, nobody made copies of the, nobody asked to have copies made of the arrest and the recordings, they were deleted, and the judge ruled that the officer himself was not even permitted to testify as to what he saw that day, since there was no video recording to back it up.
Ooh. That's a tough one.
Pardon me?
This
is very tough, and I have the...
kind of punitive.
Well, and that's what's happening, unfortunately. Recently, there was a Lincolnshire case. It was relayed to me by Lincolnshire, where the officer stopped a DUI, and if you're familiar with our procedures, stop the car on the street, obviously, the officer offsets his car slightly, and they're taught not to do field sobriety tests between the cars for obvious reasons. For some reason, other drunks are drawn to the red and blue lights, and there's been countless accidents where they've piled into the back end of stopped police cars, even with their lights flashing. So the officer moved the sobriety test over to the side of the road onto the sidewalk. Well, as I mentioned before, there's no camera crews in these cars. The camera is in a fixed position pointing forward. Because the sobriety tests took place on the sidewalk out of the periphery of the camera, they were ruled inadmissible, and the officer was not allowed to testify. And more, the judges are finding that if you have cameras in the cars and they're not, and the incident in question is not being recorded, that you are penalized, and they are able to rule or instruct juries that if it had been recorded, that it would have been favorable to the defendants. In other words, again, you're being penalized because something didn't work.
So possibly departments are going to be forced not to use cameras
Well,
from an evidentiary standpoint.
that certainly is a possibility. There is nothing that requires us to have them in a car.
Right.
And if you recall, these came about maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago because of the charges of racial profiling. And there were a number of communities in our area who were under a consent decree to put them in the cars.
I think it was Highland Park, right?
I'm not mentioning any names.
Okay, fine. Well, it's a matter, okay.
It's an issue that we're spending a tremendous amount of money for a tool that we thought would be helpful, and although it has been proven helpful, it's not infallible. And unfortunately, because of that lack of infallibility, it's now turning against us and becoming detrimental to our purpose. The one positive thing that I would bring forward, because it deserves to be mentioned, is the protection of the officer against unfounded charges. We have had a handful over the 10 years we've had them in the cars where people have made allegations towards our officers that were proven incorrect because of the cameras when they did work, and subsequently charges were filed against the other persons for filing a false police report.
Well, how would they perceive the use of a camera phone, you know? How would they perceive that? Because Lord knows, there's people that could come on a scene and use them, or the defendants themselves or the arrestee is using it right then and there and recording everybody's spontaneous utterances and
I guess
instructions. So
and I guess that's
admissible?
well, the court hasn't ruled upon that yet, but there is a case that was brought before the Supreme Court, and Bob probably can help me with this one, but by the ACLU prior to the G9 summit, whereby the courts have pretty much said, while they didn't rule, they said that if it was challenged in court, that the recording, the unauthorized recording of police officers' conversations and actions in a public place probably would not be unconstitutional. In other words, it'd be okay to do it. And I guess my point is, if everybody's going to be recording what's going on out there, I really don't have a concern, because if you are now alleging that the police officer said X or did X, bring me the recording, and we'll go from there.
Well, I guess my question is, okay, I understand what you're saying with our vehicles, the camera isn't, it's not
Exactly.
swiveling like Mike Storto, right now. I mean, so it's in a fixed spot. So how do you address, okay, like this case, I mean, would they allow a police officer to use a handheld camera?
I suppose they would. It's okay for the citizen to use, but on the other hand,
yeah, or the helmet mounted like for sporting events.
there are other options out there that are pioneered, but I think we're going to be held to the same standard. Either it works all the time or it's not admissible.
Yeah.
And that's the problem we run into.
Telephone cameras seem to work pretty well.
They sure seem to.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, okay. I know Mike just said that. You got those, sports helmet.
They have all kinds of cameras now.
Yeah.
The Schaumburg Police Department removed the cameras from their squad cars, and they're a much bigger department than we did, probably a number of years ago.
Yeah.
When they went from VCR to digital, they pulled them out of their cars. I know they're still looking at something else, but as of yet, they haven't implemented anything. And as I said, there's no requirement to have them in. We thought it would be a nice tool, and it would aid us. And while that has been the case some of the times, it now appears, at least, that it's becoming a detriment, that it's being held against us if it doesn't work.
I don't want to rush the judgment on this one as far as saying no to cameras. I mean, Trustee Cook?
Well, Chief, in your best judgment, you're the professional in charge. What's your recommendation?
I recommend we remove them. I have talked to several of the prosecutors. I even talked to one of the sitting judges in Lake County. And while they said the judge at least said it would be a shame to do that, they understand. We've also talked with all of our officers. because obviously this affects them as well, and of course the union, and there were no objections from any of them. You know, if they were seriously concerned about officer safety, about recording incidents, I would certainly have second thoughts on doing this. The upside on this is, if there is one, is that if we choose to remove the cameras we have and not install new ones, if there comes a time and a place where we can do it again, we can always do it. All I'm saying is we could, you know, we're talking about $100,000 right now that we need to install these, to upgrade our system to make them all work.
Is audio, I mean, there's one thing videoing it, what about audio?
I don't know of anyone who's using audio without video. That's worth looking into, though. You know, we used to fund these cameras when we first started putting them in through DUI, through the DUI fund. The courts would mandate $100 from every DUI fine would go back to the village to be used for enforcement or education purposes. And we used to do that. For example, in 2004 and 2005, we brought in $20,000 in DUI money just to help us support the cameras, and it really did. It allowed us to replace 3 or 4 cameras every year. Last year, the DUI funds were down to $8,000. We have fewer restaurants, fewer bars in town, and we have fewer officers making DUI arrests. The numbers of DUI arrests have decreased significantly, and so has the revenue from those. So, I mean, we don't have a lot of money. This isn't like a self-supporting project. So we would have to come back to the board and request the additional funds. This certainly wasn't anticipated, and there's no way we would have known this could have happened. I guess I'm not asking you to make a decision tonight. Certainly you can think about it. But like I said, the downside is, unfortunately, the majority of them aren't working now. We just leave them as they are. And if it comes a time where we decide we want to put the cameras back in, then we can expend the resources and
So
put them in next time.
You're predicating your recommendation on this Illinois Supreme Court decision?
No, no, I'm predicating my decision on the cost versus the usefulness of it. And like I said, you've got the cost, and then you've got the fact that they are not 100% reliable. They don't work every time. When they work, it's nice to have them. But it seems now, at least, that the tide is starting to turn against us when we have them and they're not working.
In the station, those cameras are more reliable, is that what you're saying?
In the station?
Yeah.
Sure, they're hardwired in.
Yeah.
So you're saying for $100,000, there's still no guarantee this is going to work well?
Correct. There's no guarantee it's going to work 100% of the time, just like your DVD player at home doesn't record 100% of the time.
What is the percentage?
Of that it works?
Yeah.
Oh, probably 85%, maybe 90%?
Including the fact that you'd have to change your protocol to get them to be in front of the camera during a field sobriety test?
Well, that's difficult because, again, then if you do that, you're putting them out in the street. That becomes a safety risk.
Right.
What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to ask the officer to
Park.
move the camera before he gets out of the car, but then the traffic stop isn't going to be recorded. I'm not sure there's a perfect answer.
Is there any, I guess, ability to send the live camera back to the station?
It's too far, it's too great a distance.
Right. So
The best thing we have is that when you come to the station, it automatically,
Download.
right, it automatically downloads. That's about as close as we can get.
So for $100,000, we're not getting like a signal strong enough to.
No.
What
No,
if
you're
we-
getting a replacement for the system we have,
But-
essentially.
What if you did like Skype? I mean, that quality, that level of quality that you'd run through an RF internet connection.
Boy, I'm not even sure that, I mean, maybe possible.
Would you get it so that you'd have the quality?
Yeah,
enough level
you'd have a
of quality?
certain amount of
I think-
pixelation
I think
and/or.
the other thing that the chief and I have talked about too is the whole idea that you have to have it as fail-safe as possible. All these other ideas, the problem then is you've spent all this money and then you only have a 70%.
Right, you're only as good as your
whatever.
weakest
You
link.
really have to have a system, and also the officer, in deference to them, they can't be expected to remember they're stopping somebody. So that's priority number
Yeah,
one.
that's their focus.
Yeah, so
Well-
they can't be expected to adjust something or do something.
Is
or
this
trim
something
out.
that's been discussed between, Will and Jim Dunning?
I know it's been discussed
Are they
with Jim
both-
Dunning, and
Aren't they both IT guys?
Right, well, I know Jim's been involved.
yeah, Jim and Ed have been involved in this. Ed Mankey, our communications guy, has been involved in this heavily.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy who maintains the server on our end where these things download to, and he's the one that has to move them over and make copies of them. And then it should be pointed out too, that even if it worked 100% of the time, they're probably only used in 1% of the cases.
Right.
That's the other side of it. It's rare that it's that significantly beneficial.
But boy, it would have been
Yep.
real
Yep.
nice in the case that you alluded to earlier.
Yep, you're
Will
absolutely correct.
Still go unmentioned.
Yep, you are absolutely correct,
You
sir.
can mention it's a public case, come on.
Well, we can still
We're talking about
explore-
the Judge Hall case, okay? It's public record. So, okay, with that said, there's a lot of other evidence that controls that one too, I think, but maybe not. Like blood tests. So anyway, where are we going with this tonight?
I'd like to chew on it some
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Okay, I bring it to your attention
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't want, when this comes back up at some point, I don't want you to say, we never talked about it before, why is this coming up now? Or why is this the
Does
first
this
time
help
you're
us
hearing
at
about
the
it?
courthouse that we had this public discussion on it?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay, Chief, well, we'll certainly take that one under advisement. Next is Project Turf.
Okay, so since the last time we talked, I have talked to the high school, I've talked to the Park District, and I think we have agreement. The summary of it is they meaning the Park District, and we've expressed that also, to have a number, whatever the number is, 2, 3 plus tournaments during the summer months. So, and that was kind of the rub, using it on the weekends, that type of thing. I've talked to Ellen Zwick, principal at Vernon Hills High School, and she indicated she didn't see a problem with that. I mean, obviously, we didn't talk dates and conflicts, that type of thing, but in general, the concept works. The Park District doesn't have any requests beyond that. So, Bob put an agreement together that's very open-ended, and I can't imagine the high school agreeing to it. But we put the language in there to get us started talking about it. But I think in principle, there's agreement. So, and also in the agreement, we have that the village would disperse funds upon final acceptance of the Project Turf project. So.
It sounds encouraging and everybody's.
Yeah, I think, right, they're in agreement, this works. And of course, it's the date, August 5th, 2013. Is that going to be available, or whatever the date one picks next year? Maybe, maybe not. But
So what was previously discussed is no longer on the table, that you can't use it on weekends.
Correct. That for this tournament, I would say they do not want the parties, meaning us in the Park District, to be able to use it every single weekend, anytime they're not using it. Not to that level, but certainly what our intent is, they didn't express a problem with that.
All right, and who, the village attorney, Kenny, draft this with staff's input?
I missed that comment.
Did you draft this?
Yes.
Okay, with staff's input?
Yes, I did.
And with the Park District's input?
Well, I talked to the Park District, Bob.
So that incorporated.
But it's very, like I said, the one clause, it's pretty open-ended. If they agreed to what Bob put together,
okay,
then we'd go far beyond what I just said. So.
All right, so this is subject to, obviously, then.
Yeah,
all the
we'll go
parties.
back and forth. We just want to see what their restrictions are and how do you state that, at least 3 tournaments, a season, define the season, and as long as there's not a conflict with another high school event or maintenance, so we'll have to work out some language.
And then as far as providing, you know, staff and such, the park district will provide the staffing and.
I mean, for a tournament, or?
Well, if it's gonna be used for a park district.
Right, yeah, if they said, like,
Because-
for example, we talked the Hershey track and field event, I wouldn't see that the village would be involved in that.
No, I understand.
Right,
but
so they would
wasn't
do
there
it.
concern about, hey, you know, the school's closed.
Right, right.
People are there during the week, but nobody will be there on a
Correct.
Saturday.
And I said to Ellen, of course, with the police and the public works and the park district, we'll work out those details
Right.
as far as
Okay.
cleaning up as well as security.
All right, so that there's a trust factor been established.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, next is,
So you don't need anything from us tonight?
I don't think so, unless, is it, okay, once we hammer out an agreement, we'll put it on unfinished business.
Right.
Sounds good.
okay, village board voting, should I leave?
I don't think there's a reason for you to leave,
Okay.
unless the board wants you to leave.
Yeah, well, I do have to take a break.
Well, we could take
It's
a,
a personal break.
we could take a 5-minute, or we
I
could
don't
keep
know.
talking.
No.
Minutes, aren't we? Let's get out of
All right,
here.
okay.
Last item, let's-
The-
Okay, board discuss this. Somebody discuss.
Let me just start this out. The last time we discussed this, trustee Cook questioned what happens in the event of a 2/3 vote or a 3/4 vote? What impact would that have? So I've looked at the municipal code and I've looked at all the situations where there is a 3/4 vote or a 2/3 vote. And I went through all the scenarios when 6, 5, 4, 3 trustees were here. Clearly, this is only going to come into play on a regular vote. If there's 3 trustees, the mayor gets to vote anyway. If there's a 2/3 vote and you need 4 trustees and only 3 are present, the mayor could vote. If there's a 3/4 vote and you need 5 and there's only 4 present, the mayor could vote. Most of these votes, in my opinion, do not take away authority from the village board from the perspective of stealing authority from the mayor's position, except for 2 places. One is a veto.
Right.
When the board has the opportunity to override the mayoral veto, the mayor should not be involved in that vote. Practically speaking, he's never going to vote against his veto, but I still don't think.
Never vetoed anything. Maybe I should try it one time.
So I think clearly the mayor should not be involved in that, but I don't think that that's implicated.
Yeah. I don't want to count.
The only other instance that I saw that I thought was significant was if the mayor chose to terminate an officer. With a 2/3 vote of the village board can keep that officer in the village. Now, that's one, I think, where the village board has clear authority and it's directly contradictory theoretically with the mayor, and the mayor should not be able to get back into that game to defeat.
Following the Island Lake issues.
Right, there are a couple.
They get a lot of press.
There are a couple historical examples of that.
And where you go employ your separate attorney and
Right.
oh my God. Yeah,
Now,
right.
this issue arose specifically out of a zoning context because the votes were a little bit strange. And it expanded to all the situations, more on my recommendation with Mike because of the practice here. But clearly, if the board feels that the mayor should be able to vote, those 2 instances, I think, should be specifically excluded from that right.
But it does change the 2/3 then, correct? Because you will have 7 votes always, and 2/3 now becomes 5 instead of 4.
Yes.
You need any of your matrix?
No, I
Bob?
got my matrix.
Bob,
I got my
Bob
matrix.
set this
Well, no,
up.
I'm
I
just
didn't
saying,
send it out.
if the mayor
too
is a
much.
vote on every matter, as you're suggesting here, 2/3 now becomes 5 instead of 4.
Well, we can do this anyway. We could say that in a situation when there's a 2/3 vote of the trustees required, the mayor's vote can count as one of those trustees' votes. So
You're
we're not,
saying if we're short a couple of people.
we're not.
No, what I'm saying is,
Oh.
what I'm saying is that anything that requires a 2/3 vote, if we have 7 standard votes, 2/3 is now 5, not 4.
Well, and we have two ways of dealing with this. Where the statute says 2/3 vote of the village board, that's 4 of the 6 of you. We could say in that scenario that the mayor is allowed to vote vote will count as one of the trustees. So it stays 4 votes. It's just that the mayor could be that extra vote. It doesn't
So 4 to
raise.
3 could become 2/3. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that the 2/3 is of 7 instead of 2/3 of 6. I'm saying it's still 2/3 of the trustees, but the mayor can vote, mayor's vote can count
Well,
as a trustee.
let me give you a scenario. There are 7 of us sitting here, and we get a 4-3 vote on something that requires 2/3.
Well, if you
And the
have,
mayor votes as part of the 4, is that?
Yeah, but as long as the mayor's vote was in the negative against, then it would still be 2/3 for, because it's 2/3 of the
if
trustees.
it's 2/3 vote, and it was 2/3 of the
So a
trustees,
4-3 vote where the mayor votes as part of the 3 would still count as a 2/3.
yes, because we're
And
not.
a 4-3 vote where he's part of the 4 would not be 2/3.
No, I think you and I are talking past each other. What you're saying is when we talk about a 2/3 vote and the mayor's voting, you're saying 2/3 of 7 instead of 2/3 of 6. I'm saying we could still have that 2/3 of 6, but the mayor's vote would count as a trustee's vote.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to give you a scenario. We've got all 7 people here.
Then there's 7
And we take a
trustees,
vote
not
that
6.
requires 2/3. And 4 trustees vote yes, which would be 2/3.
It's going
And
to
the
pass
mayor-
anyway.
Well, wait, the mayor votes no.
You're saying,
So
yeah.
it's now
I see
4
what
to
you're
3.
saying, it'd be 4 to 3.
Is that still 2/3? If the mayor's voting on all matters, and
Other than
4
these
trustees
2
vote
out
yes, 2 trustees vote no, and now the mayor votes no, that's 4 to 3, is that still 2/3?
It depends on how we write this. If we write this and we say that it is, the 2/3 vote will be of the corporate authorities instead of the board of trustees, then you're right.
Well, my question is, if we need, okay, what's 2/3 of,
Of
4 trustees to me?
The difference is
You know what I'm
this.
saying? Would it be 4 to?
No.
We have
The
2
2/3
scenarios.
is always based on 4 of 6. By 4, it's
Well,
2/3 of the corporate authority.
Unless it's
Well, it'd be 2/3 if there's only 4 trustees. We couldn't vote?
No, if 4 trustees vote something, you've got a 2/3 vote.
Correct.
No, but if there's only 4 votes
Total.
and I'm here, how many, okay, out of the 4, what would actually be 2/3 of 4?
You don't, that isn't what counts.
Okay, so
It's
It's
the
if you have to have
trustees in
4
office,
affirmative
so
votes.
there's 6.
Well, yeah, but if 2 people are missing.
Then you need
It's-
all 4 affirmative
Okay,
votes.
all right, fine.
You still need
I
4 to
get you.
pass that.
Okay.
In other words, 3-0 doesn't, if you've got 4
3-1,
people here,
3-1
if you've
is-
got 4 people here, 3-1 is not a 3/4
But what
vote.
if I voted, then it would pass?
Yeah, there will be
And that-
situations where your vote
Yeah,
can
if we're,
pass something.
if we're missing somebody, that's what I'm saying. Well, it's not gonna happen, you know.
Votes.
Bye, Larry.
Larry, what's your vote? You're the mathematician.
Larry's got one for you. If the
I'm with
chief's
ya.
in Chicago and I'm in New York,
No,
and I start out
very
at 60 miles per hour, and he's
Yeah, but very seriously, I want to see this worded because I'm
Yeah.
telling you right now, if your suggestion is the mayor votes on all matters, and if the mayor votes on all matters, you now have 7 votes up here on a regular basis. And under parliamentary procedure, unless we craft certain votes where the mayor wouldn't count, then 2/3 is going to become 5,
My
based on
question-
parliamentary procedure.
Right, and in line
Right.
with that, what are the state statutes requiring a 2/3 vote?
2/3 votes come into play. expelling a trustee from a meeting for misbehavior, but you can only do that once. Discontinuance of an office created by ordinance. Get rid of the village treasurer. Elective offices by ordinance, collector, marshal, superintendents of streets, 2/3 of the trustees to get rid of that office. Removal of an appointed officer, which we talked about, where we don't want the mayor involved because you have the 2/3 ability to override them. Sale of school property, which I presume comes in with your land dedication where you get some land. Street lighting tax, the zoning situations. When you get into the 3/4 vote, you've got vacation of streets and alleys. Those are the major supermajority votes that are involved.
All right, so if we carved all those out, along with the two other ones, how much different are we than where we are right now?
Well, as I said, one way to do this is just to fix what I perceive as the zoning anomaly that doesn't make sense, where the mayor can vote if there's not an objection, but not if there is one. If we could just
So we could word it that the mayor votes in all matters except those where the state statute requires 2/3 or 3/4 of the corporate vote.
of the, well, we could, of the village board.
Right.
Well, what, okay,
Yes,
going
we could do
back
that.
to, remember the vote,
Target.
we needed 6 out of the 7 of us on the whole pathway, senior living, land sale? Remember that?
Right.
Okay, so I voted on it.
When it's a vote of the corporate authorities, you're voting anyway.
Right.
It's only when it's 2/3 vote of the board of trustees. What they're basically excluding is saying, okay, just the legislative body, not the executive body, gets to participate in the votes.
All right.
Okay, so in other words, then you could craft this to say that the mayor votes in all matters except those that state statute requires a 2/3 vote of the trustees.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is the one additional item too. And what was the other one now?
Well, if we did what Tom is suggesting, both
Right.
of my situations, my concerns would be covered by.
Okay. And the only thing I guess I would add then is that within that ordinance is that you outline each of the circumstances that the mayor would not vote, just so that we have it in one place that could be easily referred to.
And laminated.
Yeah.
Like, make about 12 copies.
Well, and it may be that maybe the easiest way, given this conversation, is to give the mayor, if it's a pleasure of the board, give the mayor the ability to vote on all zoning matters and leave it at that.
Well, but that might be in conflict with state statute.
On supermajority, you know.
Well, we're home rule, we can do whatever we want, and this is a question of what the comfort level.
Yeah, because my only concern is it conflicting with supermajority, because
Right.
you move your supermajority by one number.
Yeah, I thought your 2 exceptions were good, but I just don't want us to get into any gray areas when it comes to state statute.
Well, so maybe the thing to do is walk before we run, giving the mayor the ability to vote in the zoning situations.
That doesn't
Try to come up with something germane to what everybody's concern is.
Well,
and
was-
so we
was-
got it for the next meeting.
Was when this came up, is it our local ordinance or state statute that requires a 2/3 vote to overturn a?
Well, I think too, we got broader powers now, right, because we're home rule.
Yes, it's a weird combination of both, quite frankly. It's part of our local ordinance, but our local ordinance in some instances parrots the state statute. And it only arose in the zoning context, and I think it was the target
Yeah, the
sign.
target, yeah.
Based on the numbers that were here.
But I think it was tied into the ZBA's recommendation.
Right, and we changed their
But see, the thing is, the
recommendation.
scenario that I see happening is, if you require 2/3 on those, and we let the mayor vote, you could have a two-thirds vote of the trustees that the mayor could then unilaterally overturn by being the third no vote, and you're not at two-thirds of 7.
Well, that's definitely something for the village board to consider, what the dynamics are, but I would be saying let's just take the zoning context alone. I would be saying that there are, where the state statute requires a supermajority vote, 2/3 or 3/4, that is no longer required on variations, special uses, and amendments in the village of Vernon Hill. So we would be overruling the state statute on zoning. And so we would take that 3/4 vote away. We would allow the mayor to vote if there's an objection filed. And maybe that's the way to do it to start with, to see how that works.
We can overrule the state.
That's one of
Not
the
often
glories.
you get a chance to do that.
Unfortunately, we can't print money or anything like that. That would be really useful.
They can't do that either,
Okay.
otherwise we wouldn't have
Yeah.
that.
So I'll come back with that, and we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, because that's going back to your March 1st, 2012 memo.
Yes.
Yeah, mayor votes on a variation, but only if the ZBA forwards a favorable recommendation, not if the recommendation is denied. Mayor votes on a rezoning, but not if a formal objection is lodged, which would mean coming from the residents. Okay? Mayor does not vote on any special uses. Well, that's not true. Under a general vote provision, the mayor can only vote when 4 trustees vote in the affirmative, and when 6 trustees are present, the vote is 3-3. I don't know. Well, you can redistribute this.
What I think I'll draft something up and put the
Hey, just
scenarios
remember,
and how they would come to pass.
So we're
Thank
not
you.
being
All right.
charged for this because you brought
We
it up.
No, actually,
All right,
I'm
well,
at fault.
We'll try to get this figured out. Is there a motion to,
Yeah.
we done with this
Thank
one?
you.
Is there a
Yes.
motion to adjourn the committee of the whole? and-
Second it.
Okay. Motion and a
favor
second.
say
Roll
aye.
call, please.
Trustee Schultz?
Present.
Trustee Schwartz?
Aye.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Hebda?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye.
Trustee Markwart?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, I know, this one is.